Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dagger. It is 11:05 p.m. Can you hear me, Dylan? I'm not sure if I'm disconnecting.
Yep, I can hear you. I
Okay.
got you.
It is 11:06 p.m. now, Eastern Time. Um, on a beautiful night, June 22nd, 2025, and the NBA Finals have just concluded. The NBA season has just concluded. The Oklahoma City Thunder are now the reigning NBA champions. And in my form of coping, I am wearing my Celtics champions shirt. I figured it was a good day for it. I see the Thunder already have their nice black shirts on, but yeah, it's been a great game. It's been a great series, and Dylan and I are here to discuss it. Rajan is unfortunately recovering from a headache of sorts, and so he will not be able to join us tonight. But we have a lot of thoughts on this game. And Dylan, I'll let you have a first crack at it. What was your overall thoughts and potentially takeaways of this game?
First off, the best team won.
Yep,
I mean, the no matter how controversial they may be to some, the Thunder were the best team in the league far and away this entire year, and they proved it time and time again in clutch moments that they were the team that everyone thought that they were going to be. And a lot of people had questions about this Thunder team, about the youth, the inexperience, potentially uh, interfering with what could be the most talented roster in the NBA, a roster that could and should have won an NBA championship, and they stepped up. It's the bottom line is they were the best team in the NBA this year, and they are well deserving of an NBA championship. Congratulations to the city of Oklahoma. It's very very rare to see a first time championship city. Um, that has to feel incredible after the things that they've been through. Such a passionate, relatively small market fan base. All series, incredible crowds, just a really great atmosphere for basketball. And the MVP, he delivered. The MVP
he
was
did.
exactly what he needed to be, and that was the all-encompassing star of this game. In every aspect, he was phenomenal in all three phases of the game. Just an incredible season for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and heartbreak, heartbreak. I'll turn this over to you, but heartbreak for the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah. So before we get to general notes about before we get to specific notes about the game, I just want to talk a bit more about the Thunder and Pacers, and so I'm just gonna finish with the Thunder. Um, yes, NBA champions. Today the Thunder's leading or the ringleader of that club, SGA MVP, scoring champion, and now Finals MVP, had 29 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists, which by the way I think I heard was his playoff career high. So that goes to show
Wow.
what Mark did not told him, right? Like they knew exactly what they needed. Um, 3 stocks and a single turnover, which he didn't have until the fourth quarter, and he played 40 minutes. So just an incredible clinical show by one of the best players in the world. Everybody knew this man was a top 3 player in the NBA, and he proved himself tonight. Well, prove himself tonight is kind of unfair. He's proven himself for a long time, but he definitely showed and proved his haters wrong today. And so it was great
He
to see.
joins a list of 10 players all time that have won the MVP and Finals MVP.
Yeah, I actually already had that list open. So
Oh,
yeah, but we got legends. And if you shorten that to scoring title with those two things, do you know who else is on the list? There's only 4 now, including him.
wow. Looking at this, I'd imagine is Jordan's on the list,
Yep, MJ.
and
He
then
he did multiple times.
oh man, is it Larry Bird?
Larry did not do it though, even though he won twice.
LeBron didn't win the scoring title in 11, 12, or 12, 13.
Nope,
Definitely not Tim Duncan. Is it
nope.
Shaq? No, no
Shaq
way.
is yes.
Really?
He won the scoring title in 2000, and then finally one more center. which would be Kareem from 71. So yeah, that's the
Wow.
imagine that group of four right there. And again, the scoring title is quite the accomplishment. So I think it's a fair distinction to add. Um, but yeah, just talking about the Thunder overall as a team, like this cements them as one of the greatest um, NBA teams of all time. And they have a lot of haters out there, and people dislike watching SGA. They don't want to root for Chet, but at the end of the day, the stats demonstrate that this genuinely was one of the greatest constructions of talent in NBA history. For example, they're the youngest NBA champions in almost 50 years. You can just clearly tell by everybody on their roster how young all of them are. Um, they had the highest point differential of all time in the regular season. Their average point differential was almost 13, which was higher than like the Lakers from the 70s and previous Jordan teams. Again, the highest of all time. And they're also now that they've won their 16 games in the playoffs, they finished with 84 total wins because they had 68 wins in the regular season. The only team that had more total wins in the postseason and regular season combined was the 96 Bulls.
Wow.
So, yeah, the Thunder did a damn good job this year. And also, there's many more stats that demonstrate there how much they killed it relative to this current era and year on the defensive end. And through their maestro SGA, how much of the offense he was able to carry. Um, but it was just unbelievable. And obviously, at the end of this segment, we'll talk about maybe the futures of these teams. But like, you got to think the future is bright in Oklahoma, and so I'm very excited for this team. Um, but yeah, do you have any more players for um the Thunder that you want to shout out first?
Um, Shout out. Granted, he didn't have his greatest game today, but Jalen Williams had
Yep.
one of the most inspiring series I think I've ever seen from a young player to step in really his first ask to be put in a moment like he was in the NBA finals and to go 3 straight games like he did and dominate the way that he did, carry the scoring load the way that he did along with SGA was really impressive. It completely changed my perception of him as a player, what I
Mm,
think his ceiling is, what I think his value is, even right now, as young as he is. It
right.
was just an incredible display of poise and really maturity beyond his years. The talent, just, it's really the story for this entire team. The talent is there. But what impresses you time and time again for such a young group, like you said, youngest championship group in 50 plus years, is how composed they are, their maturity, their mindset that they take into these games. Where really, I mean, except for a very few select moments, uh, and really all of game 6, which they kind of put up
Wow.
one. They kind of put up one really bad game every series. It just seemed to be their thing.
Yeah, I don't know. They had to let their weaknesses show for a bit, or maybe like lead the other team astray. Pretty
Yeah,
fascinating.
possibly their Achilles heel, not to very
Uh,
unfortunately translate into the next part of this. But do you
um,
do you have anything to say about the Pacers?
I just want to say before the Pacers that on top of J-Dub, I was just looking at the box score and it was unbelievable that Caruso, Dort, and Wallace all had the exact same game.
Is that
Caruso
really?
and Wallace both scored 10. Dort scored 9. They all had 3 steals each. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy? Like 10 points and 3 steals for three of
I
your core pieces.
I mean, like, yeah, it's absolutely insane, but the Thunder are just a factory of those guys.
Right.
They
That's
pull a lever,
exactly the point.
and they produce one of those 3 and D guys like it's nothing. It's insane what they've been able to do, their talent acquisition. And these guys just made a lot of money for themselves. There are a lot of teams across this league. I could think of one in particular that are looking for guys who are absolutely incredible at spacing the
I
floor
know a
and
guy.
playing absolute lockdown defense. Yeah, we might know a team that could use some guys like that, but it's
um
unbelievable.
Absolutely, man. Shout out to Sam Presti, and there's a lot of quite a bright future there for the Thunder. So anyway, yeah. On the other note, let's talk about general thoughts concerning the Indianapolis Pacers. I had written a bunch of notes before the game of what this championship would mean for either team, so I'd have all these like positive things to say, and I had a lot of things I wanted to say, like. If the Pacers won, I think it would have been the biggest upset in NBA history, and I think there's pretty good evidence to back that up. For example, the Thunder won 18 fewer games than the Pacers won 18 fewer games than the Thunder in the regular season. So if they beat them, that would have been the greatest gap in NBA history. They also had the greatest point per game differential between them and the Thunder, which would have been the biggest like gap in NBA Finals history. So they were very very close on those fronts. And we could have talked about Rick Carlisle's legacy. He is obviously one of the greatest coaches of all time, given how far he was able to carry this team and what he was able to do similarly for the Mavericks run in 2011. But even like if you look at obviously we're fans of using odds and spreads to try to estimate how much of an underdog teams are. Like the Pacers before this season, their NBA titles odds were plus 6,600, which by far and away would have been the most like unbelievable and rare title champion in the last 40 years if they were again able to get it done. Second would have been is the 2015 Warriors, for example, and they're plus 2,800. So you can think about how crazy that is. And
Yeah,
also in the 23 playoff games the Pacers played, they were underdogs in 17 of them. Goes to
that's
show
unbelievable.
how Vegas and the general public never ever believed in them. They were
Yeah,
underdogs every single game this series. And but yeah, anyway, those are all the positive things I would have liked to say. And at the end of the day, I do have one main positive thing to say. This is one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen. Greatest clutch runs from Tyrese Halliburton, most exciting ones. Like this will be the 2025 Pacers are just going to be one of those teams that when we're adults, we just reminisce on, and they're like, we have all these random 2K teams from our childhood that we can bring up in conversation, but like this one that actually made it this deep in the playoffs and gave us this good of a show, like will be unbelievable. And that all starts and unfortunately ends with Tyrese Halliburton. So how did you feel during that moment, Dylan?
I mean, it's indescribable. Like anybody who's ever competed at any level, as soon as he went down, immediately understood by looking at him what had just happened.
Right.
I With Achilles injuries, it's so hard, and I actually saw this on Twitter like directly after the game. It was somebody asking how some players deal with Achilles injuries, basically stone faced. Like if you look at Dame Lillard and how he reacted to his,
Mm-hmm.
and how some other players, like Tyrese, react the way they do. And you can see it in his eyes that he wasn't reacting to the pain. He was reacting to the moment. He knew that his
Exactly
game was
right.
over and he knew that the finals was over. And
He
like
couldn't be there.
I see AJ in the comments, as he knows with various sports like track and field and cross country, it's really really difficult to have pressure on your shoulders and to feel like you need to be there for your team, and to have a moment where something like that happens, it's just unthinkable. And I mean, we'll never know, and that's the worst part about this, as all we can do is speculate. But he looked like he was on his way to delivering a signature game 7 finals performance. He was not rattled. He was under control, and he was an absolute sniper from deep. He Halliburton's thing is that a lot of times he lets his playmaking do the talking, and he kind of takes a back seat as a scorer to look for better opportunities. He was bombing them from deep tonight. Like
Right.
this was gonna be. He knew what he needed to do tonight, and that was he is the leader of this team. He may not have been, even if they won, he may not have gotten the Finals MVP, but he is the leader of this Pacers team, and he knew what he had to do going into tonight. And you could tell from the way that he came out that it was going to be something special. To be robbed of that as a fan as somebody who loves the sport of basketball, as somebody who wants to look back in 20 years and you know, tell people how great Tyrese Halliburton was in that crucial game 7, the first game 7 that we've gotten to experience since, that the
Hmm.
fateful block by James.
Right.
I mean, just it's so hard. It's hard to even put into words how like much I hurt for Halliburton in that moment. Watching him in the tunnel on his crutches, just motionless, eh, not even talking about the future impact that might have on his career. We all know that Achilles injuries are so tricky in the recovery process, the surgery. There's so much that can go wrong, and for a player like Halliburton, especially the guards, it's so difficult because they rely so much on that movement.
Yeah. It, it's
Heartbreaking.
it's really truly depressing. It was in the first few minutes where Hallie drilled three straight long threes from that fake finals logo, and I immediately was like, "Wow, why is he the ball's on him, man?" And also, like, I wasn't surprised, frankly, because we've seen him time and time again be one of the clutchest players in the NBA. But yeah, just the way his leg popped, that was about with 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had that calf strain a couple of games ago, which people said if this was in the middle of the season, this would be a injury you're out with for a couple of weeks.
Oh
And
yeah, absolutely.
obviously, at this with these stakes, he couldn't have gone out. But it just obviously reminded me of KD in the Raptors series. Just the simple fact that he had a calf injury and then brutally injured his Achilles, and so yeah, I couldn't even imagine what was going through his head. I completely agree with what you were saying. It's also just fascinating the injuries this offseason, man. It's now that it's over, we can confidently say it's been one of the rougher ones. Obviously my goat Jason Tatum, Dame, who you mentioned, and Tyrese, all Achilles injuries, also all wear the number 0. I think I have a conspiracy cooking, but I'll get back to you on that.
AJ, yeah, AJ pointed that out in the comments. That was crazy.
Oh, he
I
did.
didn't see that. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Isn't that? I'm pretty sure those are probably the three of the best players that wear 0. Maybe not, but like something's in the water. And also,
My more realistic theory is two of the three of those were on Team USA.
oh, that is a
More
pretty
A
good.
lot more wear and tear without that off
Okay,
season.
with all due respect, can you really count Halliburton and Tatum being on
Hey,
Team USA?
I mean it. Yeah, I know. With the they never really got put in the game thing, but it's the practices. It's the disruption of their routine. I mean, like an athlete's routine. Just if you look at like interviews with LeBron or somebody like that, like their bodies are their temple. They take ridiculous measures to take care of it, and they go through ridiculous routines. And spending a summer in Paris, it kind of disrupts things, whether or not at the time they were feeling it. It has Tatum and goat in the same
I'm gonna
sentence.
ban you, man.
Yeah, man, you'll get kicked pretty quick if you say the wrong thing about Jason Tatum.
We run a
Unfortunately.
tight ship here at the Dagger. Don't you dare. Um, yeah, you're right. I don't actually know. We should have a discussion in a later episode about how we think we could help fix the injury problem. But also, not to mention the Steph and Aaron Gordon both suffered slight injuries these playoffs. They were both hamstring
Mhm.
related. But
Yeah.
yeah, just was a tough one for sure. So on other notes about the Pacers, I would say that Siakam did have a great game again today. Like he just had like a pretty cool and collected game. Again, nothing super flashy.
He had a Siakam game.
He did.
He's just the ever present. I'm gonna go out and get you between 20 and 26 points and do it super efficiently and grab a bunch of rebounds and play
Right.
great defense. He's so silent, but he's so consistent.
Yeah, and that consistency would have earned him the Finals MVP pretty confidently if they were able
Absolutely.
to get the job done, especially given Hallie's injury. But obviously by the end it ended up looking like Matherin had the best game. He did have a really strong fourth quarter when almost all hope was lost and he was trying to bring them back. They went back from being down about 20 to being down about 10. So all credit to Matherin, and he did have a excellent game earlier this series too. But of course, it really just was not enough. And on the general like notes on where the biggest discrepancies are in the box score, there's just it all comes down to steals and turnovers, right? OKC had 14 steals, Indy had 6, and then you look at turnovers, 21 for Indiana,
Good lord.
7 for OKC, and I remember that OKC had 5 in the first half, so they had 2 in the second half, and Indy I think had 12.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the third quarter in a little bit. And then the
And
points off
that's
turnovers
for
too, by the
Halliburton.
way. OKC had 32 points off turnovers. Indy had 10. It all ties back
Wow.
to Halliburton, right?
Yeah. Kind of circling back to Mathinen, we talked about that. I know in the group chat we are like, this the Pacers don't win this game if he doesn't deliver.
Yep.
And he, granted, he ended up having a great last half of the game, but too little, too late, unfortunately. And I know that we'll get to the fourth quarter and we'll break that down more eventually. But he's their curveball. Like if what the Pacers do traditionally is their fastball, they can locate it just fine.
Hmm.
It Mathernan is their changeup. He plays completely differently from everyone else, and it really. I know that they're talking about it on the Bill Simmons podcast the other day, but it really stood out to me in one play this game. It was the Pacers had it was early on in the game. The Pacers had OKC completely out of rotation, and they kept on making one pass into another, into another, into another, and they were creating more and more space. The ball
Right.
gets swung to Mathernan, and he pump fakes.
Matherin.
And instantly, all of that separation, which is already so thin against OKC, dissipates. And that he had to end up chucking up a shot super late in the shot clock. He might have airballed. I don't remember the exact result, but they don't score because he just, as a fit with this team, he doesn't really fit in the way that everybody else on this team plays. But there's value in that when the fastball is not working, when you don't have your Halliburton, when McConnell's getting stuffed by Lou Dort into a locker, um, he he can come out and he can provide you with something that's different, something that can switch it up. So just he really just didn't show up to the game until the later half of, I would even say, the fourth quarter.
No, yeah, I completely agree, and that's a great take on the his where he kind of stands with the team, and also we can't do the Pacers service without talking about TJ McConnell, right? So of course, um, we all know what happened. We'll talk more in detail, but that third quarter when the Pacers were losing all hope, the Thunder took a huge 20-point lead like in the middle of the third. TJ comes in and he scores a couple buckets and he scores more and he keeps getting by Wallace. He gets by Caruso a time or two. He gets by SGA on the baseline. He ended up scoring 16 points in 28 minutes, but he actually had 16 in 21 minutes by the third quarter. And all of the last 12 points for Indianapolis that in that quarter were by him. And he carried them through a 11-2 run. Um, and oh, sorry, no, that was a run that OKC had at the end of the quarter. But they did have a run. They had a 9-0 run with him, I think, at some point. And yeah, TJ. Obviously, I was giving him some uh slack in the beginning of the third, and then he had a couple turnovers, and then he ended up scoring all of those points. So, like, yeah, how'd you feel about TJ's performance today and throughout the series?
Um, it using the words of Tyrese Halliburton, he called him the Great White Hope. And
Right, right, right.
it's exactly what he was today. I I don't remember. I wish the only name that comes to mind is TJ Warren in the bubble.
Mm.
I don't know when the last time like somebody who we would define as a role player took over in such an important moment like that. That was unbelievable. Like I literally watched, how tall is TJ McConnell? He has to be 6 foot, 6'1". He can't be above that.
You sure he's not 6'7"?
He played like he's 6'7". He barreling into Chet Holmgren, finishing like the little he gets people with it every time. It's the guy at the rec that just is sneaky and he
Right.
pulls the ball out and then he does the little I'm gonna pass the ball out. Nope, crossover, and then he gets under people and he gets that little McConnell leverage that he generates, and then he uses his body to shield for the finish. He's so unbelievably good in the air for a player of his height and his athleticism. It blows my mind. I don't think I've ever seen another player as limited athletically and as somebody who's just straight up not gifted athletically. Thank you, AJ. Plays the game the right way. But
Yeah, you're really trying not to say it, but I agree with you. Um,
somebody who has zero athleticism in his body just dominate in the air like he does. He kept them in the game for multiple games of an NBA Finals series against a 68. What was their final total?
68-14, yeah.
Against a 68 win team, and he looked like the best player on the court next to the MVP.
TJ is a 33-year-old 6'1" man, and he was making this historic Thunder defense look like children, frankly, for the last 3 weeks. But yeah, I remember texting you that I think I called him the Kawhi Leonard of Tony Parker's because I wanted to compare him to Tony Parker just with his play style, and then I chose Kawhi due to his playoff rising and all. But I don't know
Okay,
what a
I can see it.
strange metaphor. As for yeah, maybe he's the LeBron James of TJ Warren's or the LeBron James of LA Fitness Unks. We'll give him that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That works.
At the very least. But yeah, he had an incredible series. So shout out to him. But
Did you
uh,
see the efficiency numbers that he had? It got posted a couple days ago.
I don't think so. What do you have in mind?
I'll do my best to find it throughout the podcast because I don't have it up right now. But I just saw a ridiculous stat the other day, and it was posted about TJ McConnell and how much of like a demon run that he was on.
Oh yeah, I did find a pretty cool stat. Here, I have it here. Want me to read it? So
Absolutely.
here is the where do I have it? Here's the list of all players in NBA Finals history to come off the bench that have scored 60 points, 25 assists, 15 rebounds, and 10 steals. Okay. So bench players all time in finals
Okay.
history. Ready? TJ McConnell.
That'd be funny if he wasn't on the list. That'd be funny if you just read somebody else's name.
Okay, I guess that would be funnier.
Leandro Barbosa. End of list.
You know
But
what?
it makes
I'm
sense.
gonna do
It
that in the
makes
future. I'm
sense.
gonna pull out some random stat and has nothing to do with the guy we're talking
Lie,
about.
lies and deception. The one
uh
thing I'll say is he had 7 turnovers this game, but I don't care. He kept them in the game. By the time that he was really turning over the ball, it was basically the game was over. So
I agree. And yeah, throughout this series, he scored 18, 12, 10, 11. Today he had 16. Getting steals where he can. He's a very aggressive guy. And again, today, he definitely was turning the ball over quite a bit in the third, but he also was their only source of life. Um, and yeah, very exciting to watch from him. I'm sure we got AJ, who's a Sixers fan, remembers TJ fondly and all, but it's great. He's a very well liked player all across the league, and we're all happy for him here. So, um, all right, yeah. Well, on that note, do you want to just talk about the game? Let's go quarter by quarter.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So when it opened up, we had a pretty fun start immediately. Obviously, the Pacers, looked a little bit rushed. They're very chippy on both sides. Both teams were playing well. When Nemhard, handled the ball in that very first possession and scored, I immediately had, some excitement. Like I felt like the momentum could be in the Pacers' direction at least for a little bit. They didn't look completely startled. And then you had Hallie's threes. You had a good pressure from the Pacers defensively. It was a really obviously tight game. And I thought the Thunder looked a bit nervous on defense, but that was really because they had let some like pretty easy threes through. And yeah, and then something that was interesting was Caruso dropping two threes immediately when he came off the bench, and then it was right after that where the horrific Tyrese injury happened with about 5 minutes left in the quarter. So yeah, do you well, I guess I already asked you what you were thinking during that moment, but like I just remember the stress and like the you feel like it feels like your heart sinks even when it's not your player, and I can only imagine what Pacers fans would have must have been thinking. Man, it was
I
brutal.
mean, even at the Thunder's stadium, the air just leaked out.
Yeah,
I mean, like it was such a goosebumps with the introductions and everything like that. A game 7 in the NBA finals only comes around so long, and again, props to the OKC faithful. They were incredible all night. I mean, just my like there were moments where my laptop speakers were like crackling because the fan noise was so loud in the building. And I guess that's a poor job of audio mixing by ESPN, but whatever. It serves my purpose, so I'm gonna use it that way. Um, but even
correct.
OKC, you see a competitor like that go down, and there's just a certain level of respect that you gain for the other team after a series like they just went through. I mean, they're in the playoffs, you get to a point where both teams have figured each other out,
Right.
and there's always going to be a chess match between the coaches, but you know what one team wants to do and the other team knows what you want to do. And there just comes a moment where you have to go good on good, and we've probably gotten that for the last 3 or 4 games now. And there's just a respect that comes from that between the players, between the coaches, between the fan bases, and you could just tell that even the Thunder fans were devastated to see him go down.
I agree. I
Uh,
was actually going to mention
Rough.
that. I thought the Thunder fans were quite respectful.
Yeah.
Like remember in 2019, I'm sure you remember of seeing the clips of
Oh gosh,
Thunder,
yeah.
sorry,
That made
Raptors
me
fans
so
booing.
mad.
Like that's one of the worst moments in like most disrespectful crowd moments I've ever seen. Frankly, I don't know if I can name a worse one, but
Agreed.
today
Agreed.
I really didn't notice that, and it was brutal. But I agree, they've garnered a lot of respect as foes throughout these playoffs, and so shout out to the Thunder. And yeah, on that note, I guess we should talk about this real quick. At at the end of the day, guys, we don't know if the Thunder would have won this game if Halliburton was in, right? I would like to say they would not have because I think that a lot of Indy's issues that we talked about, like their turnovers and their lack of offensive creation, and again, just allowing so many sort of traps and not taking advantage of the cutters and the shooters that they have, could have been fixed if Hallie was out there for a lot more. But we don't know. It's full on speculation, and we can't call this a Mickey Mouse ring. That's all that the Thunder are going to be remembered for now is people are going to be like Hallie and maybe Aaron Gordon if you want to throw him in were injured in their series, and oh well, the Thunder got a cupcake ring to the and at the end of the day, I'm wearing this Celtics shirt. We can nitpick every single NBA champion at
Bro's dragging it.
people have to. Yeah, I know. I actually like to take after Bill Simmons and how quickly I can mention the Celtics. But
It's a
like
skill.
the the Thunder at the end of the day did play a lot of very healthy opponents. They played and destroyed the Grizzlies. They obviously had a much closer matchup with the Nuggets, but they still were able to beat them convincingly. And the Timberwolves they wrecked. And in this series, which again was very close and even, just because in the Game 7 moment the Pacers lose their star doesn't mean it invalidates the Thunder championship. I don't like the argument I'm trying to make is for people that don't really like wouldn't respect them anyway. And so I don't really even think there's a point in talking about it, but I'm just trying to get ahead of it, like I can already envision the Twitter and the Instagram comments, um the frustration and the you know uh s- excuses that people are going to try to make. But we've known all season, like you said, that this is the best team. They were supposed to win the finals. They were favorited for a long time. They did win, and that doesn't take it away from anything. Just like how the Celtics were the best team pretty much all of last season, and they were able to get the job done. And so, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think this is a Mickey Mouse ring, Dylan?
Absolutely not. And like there was a certain point, obviously I feel like I can speak for both of us when I say that there are certain things that the Thunder do that maybe we don't appreciate the most is how I'll say it, like the very neutral way of saying that, but they completely earned my respect after game 5. They they stayed in a game that could have easily gone either way. A game where the momentum, you could feel it slipping away from them at home. You could feel the Pacers getting close. You could feel the momentum that was with the Pacers. And there was just a certain point in that game where they had a gut check, and it was like, you are a 68 win team. You are down to the Indiana Pacers. If you lose this game, you probably lose the finals. What are you going to do about it? And they responded like great teams do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is no part of this team that is a Mickey Mouse anything. I love that term and I hate that term because of how much it's been thrown around. It's hilarious, but I hate that term for how often that it gets thrown around in modern sports. Pretty much any team that anybody doesn't like that wins a title, Kansas City Chiefs win. Oh, it's a Mickey Mouse title. You know, granted, I don't really like the Chiefs either, so maybe that's a bad example. But in any modern sport, you're pretty much going to hear the Mickey Mouse ring thing. And it started in the bubble and it's never stopped since. But this team has absolutely grinded out this playoffs. They've had to go through Jokic. They've had to go through Ant. They've had to go through a deceptively talented Memphis Grizzlies team. Not that the Grizzlies really did anything to the Thunder, but that's the point. The Thunder are an incredible team. And no matter what the Indiana Pacers were before this playoff started, something happened and they became a different team, and they became the second best team in the NBA, a hair shy of the first in this playoff run. And that's the bottom line.
They
They
did.
beat an incredible opponent, an opponent that was unstoppable, that had they won this NBA championship would be in talks for the most difficult playoff run of all time,
Hmm.
potentially. So none of this is a Mickey Mouse ring. I hate that people are going to do that. I know it's the nature of the sport and social media in general, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's rough. And I actually think that in the last 3 years, the NBA champion, it's gotten like very bad. I know the Nuggets, for example, got to play some pretty easy teams in the
Yeah,
eight
they
seeded
they had a
Heat.
lot of the Mickey Mouse stuff.
Yeah, and then the Celtics got a lot of it last year due to the injuries, and then this year the Thunder. It really it really just came down to Hallie. I think if Hallie was fully healthy, well, here's the thing: even if it wasn't, they would have been like, well, you played the Pacers, a 4 seed
Right.
that nobody cared about.
They, there was no winning in that
No
situation
winning.
for the Thunder. Ever since that commercial came out where Shea and Chet and
No,
J
please
Dub were
stop.
wearing the same outfit, or actually you could
What a
point
pro
to
wants.
what a pro wants, what a pro needs. Ever since those came out and they started doing interviews with as a whole team, they were destined for this. They were set on a collision course with Mr. Mouse, and it was never gonna change after that. So what can you do except throw your hands up and be like, what do you want? What do you want from a champion?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, anything else in the first quarter, or do you want to start with your second quarter notes?
The only other thing I would mention is at the beginning of the series, the Thunder kind of got away from the double bigs, and there was a certain point where Dagnall was like, "Okay, why did we change our lineup that won us 68 games?" And he kind of started gravitating back to it, not necessarily giving the Chet Hartenstein combo more minutes, maybe a little bit more run together on the court at the same time, but he just kind of changed up the rotation. It felt like there was like a familiarity, a certain comfort in the starting
Mhm.
lineup, having that group out there at the beginning of games. And in situations where you're walking into a game seven or you're walking into an opposing arena that is full of rabid fans wearing yellow shirts, then
Yep.
that comfort helps. Anything helps. So I thought that was something worth noting that he for what, probably the third consecutive game, fourth maybe, started the double bigs.
Yeah, it's been several games. It was really like game one, and then maybe four or five where he brought Wallace back. I don't remember, but
Mhm.
I don't even know if he did, but he moved away from it a lot, and they just played way fewer minutes in general. And like at the start of the second half too, we saw Caruso come in instead of Hartenstein. It was
Yeah,
it's a little odd of an idea to like not really know what your best lineups are, but whatever, it worked out for them.
yeah.
But yeah, so here you can talk about the second quarter.
So second quarter, Halliburton's gone down,
Yep.
and the Pacers are just trying to figure it out. And the immediate thing that I noticed, it was at a 10-21 second quarter. The Pacers were super sped up. Obviously, a team that plays at one of the fastest adjusted paces in the NBA. There
Mhm.
is that comfort zone, and then there is what they were doing. Like there was one inbounds play where they threw the ball to Siakam, and Siakam said, "Screw my other teammates," and decided to go isolation and try and get to the rim. And it was just
Right.
frantic. It was 1 to 2 passes and then a shot. That's not what got Indiana here. That's not what was going to keep Indiana in this game.
Mhm.
And it was a stretch where primarily the Thunder shooting themselves in the foot kind of kept them in it. Couldn't really get anything going from three. They were missing a lot of free throws. They had some very, not a ton of turnovers, but some very costly turnovers in moments where the game was tied or the Thunder were about to pull ahead. You can sense them picking up steam, and then it was like cut. The Pacers just found a way to stave off that momentum for a very long time. Then the Pacers kind of settled in. Bringing in McConnell really helped, at least in the beginning, for their ball movement. Um, and then somewhere around the middle of the second quarter, the Thunder went small when Siakam went out. And that's when I really feel like they figured out where they wanted to be ball pressure wise. And they just set their guys loose.
Okay.
And you see a lot of McConnell started becoming very uncomfortable. Nemhard started becoming very uncomfortable. And I think that was a moment where they started really figuring out how they were going to play these guys for the rest of the game.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then what else? What else?
That's well said. I
I'll
wanted to
let you
say
go.
about the turnovers. One of my favorite individual like moments was Cason Wallace around with like 7.5 minutes left. He stole the ball on an
Seven
inbound.
fourteen, 7:14, quarter
You got
two.
that?
I have that
Yep.
too.
He stole the ball on an inbound, and that was around 8 minutes left. And then, like 30 seconds later, he stole it again from
Yep.
Obi at that point, and that was his third steal already. He didn't end up
Yeah.
having one for the rest of the game, but like that was a crazy. And then he also scored a three shortly after, and like it was clear. I think Jefferson mentioned it on the broadcast that he was fighting over screens on defense. Like he was playing
Mhm.
really hard. And
He
that
provided a
short
great
stint
spark.
from him was probably part of that pretty relevant swing at that moment. So yeah, he had a
Yeah.
great game. Like I said, he and Dort and Caruso all contributed similarly.
Another thing, which is just hysterical that it has to be mentioned, for a majority of the end of the second quarter, McConnell was just hunting after Chet. Like
Yeah,
he was getting him
he
in a
was.
screen,
Hmm.
he was getting him in a screen and switch, and he was just trying to kill Chet for almost 6 minutes of basketball. We got to watch TJ McConnell terrorize Chet Holmgren, and that was incredible. I really enjoyed that. And like the Pacers in the second quarter, I felt so good about the game for the Pacers. I'm trying to like reposition myself in that mindset because at that point OKC had kind of slowed down. There it was a super muddy, very messy, ugly game. And that
Yeah,
that felt like the only way that the Pacers were going to come out of this with at least a chance to win the game. If they are not forcing weird turnovers, crashing the offensive glass, forcing it, not necessarily turnovers, but miscues from OKC. If they're not doing that, they had no chance in this game without Halliburton. But they were able to do that, and they had a lead with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. It was 43-42, and you just felt really good going into halftime
they
if they
did,
could
right.
keep the lead.
That was that
Um,
Matherin three-pointer, and
yes,
that was immediately after some a bucket from Turner too, who had barely been scoring all game. So yeah, you felt like, wow, okay, this is actually happening. We got these guys here. They're ready to go.
and then the Nemhard lay
Right.
you know what step back to close the yeah, just his ridiculous patented shot at this point that he's done to people. You just felt really good about where the Pacers were. I was hyped. I'm like, they're gonna go into that locker room and Tyrese is gonna be like, I tore my Achilles for this,
Yep.
and you guys might as well play every single play, hoping to do the same if it gets us this win. I thought that they were gonna come out super hyped, and I mean for a while they did, but other notes, Shea 16, 7, and 4 at halftime. Brilliant stuff
Unbelievable.
from
Yeah.
him. Just a complete game. Do you have anything else on the second quarter?
You covered most of it. One of my other favorite plays was Siakam block on SGA when
Oh,
like
that
it
was
was it
nasty.
was SGA was driving, and I think he was being guarded by Nemhard, or maybe it was TJ, but regardless, the other one, and then Siakam, they triple teamed him and swarmed him, and then he rejected it, and that was like that was a fantastic play on the left block. And so um but yeah, and then after that, we had that little run that you were talking about. And but yeah, you could tell parts of the offense were really, really struggling, and the turnovers were starting to build up. As AJ's foreshadowing, it did get a lot worse after halftime. But yeah, 48-47 at half. At that point, Vegas still had a spread of like Thunder -5. I was like, dang, man, they really have no faith. They ended up being quite aware of what was to come. So yeah, halftime happens. Hopefully Halliburton gave a good speech, but unfortunately, I don't know if it did anything. We jump into the third quarter. Um, we had Caruso starting instead of iHeart, right, like I mentioned, and right off the bat, like it was just brutal, to be honest. Well, not necessarily right off the bat. There was a Dort three and a Chet block, but then Siakam made a three. So then you felt like, okay, they can't get away. Like it's
Yeah.
very close. It was all in the first couple minutes. Um, and I wrote this play here that Nemhard hunted Holmgren, right? Like we had a Chet on Turner and Caruso was guarding Nemhard, and then he got the switch, the pick, and got Chet on him. But Caruso's not dumb, so he came to like help swarm Nemhard, and then he passed it to Turner for a three. And so
Hmm.
that was a critical play, and that's something that Miles knows that people want Chet on the perimeter, and he needs to be able to make that sort of pick and pop play, and he's missed just a ton of those shots in the
Yeah.
series, and he hit that, and so I was like, again, feeling better about Miles. He also had a block around that, but at the same time, Shea hit a three on the other side, and then Chet hit a three on the other side, and then J Dub hit a three on the other side, and it was
Yeah.
a
It
nine
started
zero
pouring
run.
down.
It was a 9-0 run with like around that 7 minute mark. Do you have other notes around that time?
Um, my other note was I took very few notes in the third quarter because I was actually making and eating dinner. But I remember the 9-0 run, and this was just a game where it really felt like if this gets any higher than 10 points, the Pacers just aren't going to have it. Because you don't have Halliburton, you don't have that ability to create, you don't have that ability to spark their insane offensive runs that they're able to go on. And so it just felt the closer that they could keep this game, the more and more confident you felt in their ability to be able to close from a smaller margin. If it got any larger than like 10 or 12, then we're like, okay, this
Right.
game's probably over. And I feel like Carlisle realized that. I know RJ said something about that on the broadcast. He was like, this team needs to keep this within a reasonable range to be able to to have any chance at winning this. The only other thing that I had is the Shepherd minutes for Indiana were pretty puzzling for me.
Right.
I don't know what he does. I'm gonna be so real. Like maybe I'm missing something, but in the past couple of games where he's gotten any run, I don't see it. He's not a phenomenal defender. He doesn't bring anything offensively. He's basically just somebody who stands in the corner. He
Yeah.
I don't know. He's not a terrific rebounder. I suppose he's a good rebounder. He's not a terrific rebounder. I don't see it. I don't know why he was out there so much this game.
I don't know what he necessarily contributed either. He didn't score. He ended up being on -4 for the game. But yeah,
He
that
had
was
one
a little bit
three
puzzling.
point. He had one 3-point attempt. One off. I guess he had 4 rebounds. One offensive rebound, 3 defensive rebounds.
Hmm.
One turnover and one personal foul. That was his stat line in 16 minutes of run. Like it got to a point where I just kept on seeing him every once in a while, like in the corner of my screen if I was like following off ball, and I'm like, what is this guy here to do? What is his skill set?
What is bro's job is like? What is he being paid for?
I mean,
Um,
this is basically the NBA Finals equivalent of the Tony Snell game. I mean, obviously not as bad, but like,
who just
what a terrible game.
who just had a Tony Snell game this like season? Do you remember? It was a
Oh gosh,
it was a big
I
deal.
don't.
It was Kuzma, I think. I think
That makes sense.
I think it was Kuzma had like nothing in like over 20 minutes. I don't
I don't
remember.
remember who it was. I just remember everybody saying, "Tony Snell, you can rest."
Oh
Is
God.
is AJ telling us who it was? Let me put it out there. Or like put me out there and I could do that. I agree. I mean he was -4 already, so you have some wiggle room.
Right.
Oh, just terrible minutes from him. But that was about it for me, besides the McConnell stuff, which I'll let you talk about because I already waxed poetic on him.
Yeah, so I was going to say the Pacers had 7 turnovers in the third quarter after 3 in the first and 5 in the second. And it was a pretty brutal start. TJ had 2 turnovers himself that helped lead to those threes, the 9-0 run. And then he also, it wasn't necessarily his turnover, but he did this like poor handoff to Obi near the baseline that Dort
Yeah.
just like completely trapped him. And that was kind of TJ's fault at the end of the day. But
Hmm.
and I wrote all these notes and I was like, damn man, this guy like TJ, without the help of Hallie to, again help run their offense, he's just constantly getting attacked by Lou Dorcher Chamber.
Yeah.
But then obviously we already hinted at this. TJ in the end of the quarter, I'll get up exactly how many points he scored in the quarter. Obviously, we know that he ended with a total of 16, but yeah, he just had back to back to back to back shots. He ended up scoring all the last 12 points for Indy. He was the only pacer to score in the second half of that quarter, like the only one.
That's
Um,
insane.
which is just unbelievable. And even though he was doing all that, at the same time, if he has to do all that, you got to get the feeling like that the everybody else is out of whack. Their mental is not where it needs to be. He played 8 minutes that quarter. He scored 12 points, like I said. Um, and yeah, but the brutal part during all of this is that OKC had 18 points off turnovers that quarter, and Indiana had none. And so
Yeah.
these turnovers that TJ and some of his teammates had, as much as these little baseline, these cute little floaters that he was giving, they just weren't enough to make up the huge deficit that they had. And
Hmm.
the Thunder ended up winning the quarter by 14 to take a 13-point lead. Um, there was some vicious Caruso defense at the end, but so yeah, it was on a ended on a Thunder run too, not a happy ending.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Any other notes on TJ or the rest of the quarter?
Um we talked about it a couple episodes ago on like the value of the traditional point guard,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
if there was ever an exhibit of the points that we were making, it was this game. And as great as McConnell was as a scoring option, I'd be interested. You're much better with stats than I am. Was his 12 points consecutive to close out the quarter, the most in this playoffs by a single player consecutively without interruption from like other players scoring.
I will see if I can find that for you.
Is there a statistical category for that? I'm not sure.
Um, I don't know. We got a lot of good tracking websites out there, but
Mhm.
I don't pay for most of them. So
Yeah, true. But anyway, back to the point. The dagger budget maybe needs to be expanded. Um,
any investors?
yeah,
Uh,
investors speak now, or regret a lifetime of not getting in when we were low. But to kind of to finish up the point, like as brilliant as he was offensively, he turned over the ball in some crucial moments that led to, some points off some turnovers. So you have the combo guard kind of look that TJ McConnell is providing, and it's kind of a dual edged sword. And sometimes the other end of that's going to hurt you more than the scoring end, as it did in the fourth quarter. Sometimes the scoring is going to give you a slight edge, and it just was kind of like a perfect representation of that, of how you get both the good and the bad with players that kind of set up like that. um
right.
that's about it for him. I mean, I'll always remember. I'll tell my kids one day about how this little kid who looks like he should be playing in a YMCA adult league McConnell the entire NBA. It's just such a great, like it brings a smile to my face watching him play. It really does. Like those little hang middies that he loves, the way
Uh
that
huh.
he gets to his spots. They were mentioning on the broadcast. I'm not sure that there's another player in this playoffs that is as good, maybe besides Shea, that's as good as getting to the spots that they want to get to as TJ McConnell.
I completely agree with you.
He's unstoppable getting to that mid range.
He's very very fun to watch. Um, Obviously SGA, another maestro of the mid range, is just frustrating, but I think it's uh I think it's TJ's size just like makes him more fun to root for, and like it just looks way more impressive. And he also just generally doesn't try going to the free throw line as much. That's not his
Yeah.
style. And but yeah, he's great, and he will be one of those players that we remember for a long time. And he had a good game today, but at the same time, like it wasn't enough to keep up, and you could just feel the momentum kind of sucked out of the team. I know you said the time of death for the Pacers was in the fourth quarter, but
8:28 fourth quarter.
were you did you already know though, like at some point in the third that you thought it was lost, or were you only confident in the fourth?
I don't know, because I with this Pacers team, what my gauge is can they get it under 12? Once they get it under 12,
Hmm.
it who knows what's gonna happen. And so there were points in the third quarter where I was just still kind of desperately thinking like, maybe they can do something miraculous. You never know with this team. But in the fourth quarter, the Thunder were going on that extended run that eventually the lead ballooned to, I think it was 22 was the
Yeah,
largest.
that was the
Is
largest
that
lead.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was just like, okay, this is it. It was the turnover and then a missed three by SGA, and I forget who ended up knocking down the three. Maybe it was Jalen Williams, but that was what pushed the lead out super far. And I was like, okay, this game's over. But
Uh,
they did it again.
yeah, the fourth quarter. Yeah, you mentioned there was a Chet block. He had three threes at that point. There's an assist to J Dub at that point. SGA already had 25. And then I agree. Timeout with 8:28 left. They were on a 19-2 run at that moment, and so then and that was including that was after the end of the McConnell run in the third, including his final bucket. But yeah, and then Chet blocked Naismith and Matherin after a free throw,
Yeah,
and
that was
like
brutal.
that was an unbelievable sequence. And obviously, Chet is not a very likable dude. You know, shooting tray ball, hang pulls, OD. Like I that guy pisses me off so much.
Oxtails, and cornbread.
He's genuinely one of the least likable people I've ever seen, but at the end of the day, he is really good, and I really like. I think that players that you don't like still deserve respect, and yeah, Chet ended up having 5 blocks, of course, and he had 18 points, efficient shooting. But his defense is really what shined today, and what shined through most of the rest of the series too. And yeah, I just think back to when the Magic drafted Paulo over him. My brother was like, my older brother texted his Chet better than Paulo, and I was like, it's not. You can't compare them. Like they're very different. Obviously, Chet is doing really well on this stage, but Paulo is better. Like as an overall player, I would still rather take the idea of Paulo. And we've got a lot of time to go. We didn't blow it.
If the Thunder had Paulo, we would be talking about this Thunder team as potentially the greatest team of all time.
I That's what I was thinking too. Like Paulo would fit unbelievably well. I mean, like he arguably would take a lot of the J Dub role, and so I wonder how differently Dub would play. Um, or if they might have drafted someone different in that position. But at the end of the day, Chet fits really well into what they have, and being able to run that double big lineup and being able to bring on this tall, lanky guy who can block everything. It's crazy and it's very impressive. And so yeah, around then, you could just feel I wrote like this turnover imbalance in the fourth was unbelievable. And with no Tyrese, their all NBA facilitator and shot creator and pacemaker, it was inevitable. And they had at that point they had 10 turnovers in the second half, the Pacers, while the Thunder had 0. And so again, it was very very clear what was going on. Coming out of halftime, Dayton knew exactly what the Thunder needed to do. They needed to swarm more aggressively. They needed to pressure TJ, or again, maybe it was the Thunder's game plan all along to force TJ to take such a heavy load in the third quarter, while being able to respond on every possession at on the other end. And so, yeah, what else did you think during the fourth?
Um, I know that you said that you respect Chet Holmgren because he's a great player. I
Uh huh.
begrudgingly, I begrudgingly have to say that he's a great player. Doesn't mean that I respect him.
Oh, you still don't.
I got the biggest kick in the world out of watching TJ McConnell fry him up and down the court for
He did.
probably 2 quarters of this game.
That's
That
not
was
wrong.
phenomenal. Phenomenal stuff from Mr. McConnell. But yeah, the simple truth is that he is not only an excellent player, but he's an excellent fit in this system. And you combine
Right.
excellent talent with excellent fit, and you get an incredible
Match made
player
in
that
heaven.
Chet is. Right, the match made in heaven. So, I mean, that's about it for that. As far as the Thunder side of this, I'm just so impressed with the Pacers. They're without Halliburton in a hostile environment in a game 7 where there's a certain point as a player, no matter how delusional you are, that you know that this game is slipping away from you. No game is over until it's over. And a lot of people have that mentality, but you can feel it. You can feel it when the game's slipping away. There's pressure, there's frustration. You look at Neesmith when he fouled out, he went, and he's a pretty even keel guy. Like I feel like he's not like a super hothead at all, and he went over to
No.
the sideline. He almost broke that chair when he kicked it.
Yeah, the emotions were at an all-time high at that point, and
Yeah.
that was his third time fouling out in the series, and he knew that when he fell for that Shea fake, like that he didn't do. Maybe he felt like he didn't do his best, like
Hmm.
he wanted to be out there. Tyrese obviously wanted to be out there all game, and like these
Right.
guys just don't get the chance to finish with their their best friends and their running mates, and like it's just really sad.
Yeah, there's just this element of frustration that comes in, and when you get frustrated, you start to play differently. You start to make dumb passes, you start to speed yourself up, you look for
Mhm.
bad shots instead of working the ball around and getting the right shot, which is the perfect situation for the curveball. Like they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and they gave Matherton the ball and was like, "Here, you're a freak athlete and a phenomenal scorer. Go get me as many points as you can as quickly as possible. Otherwise, this game
Exactly.
is over. And that's what he did. And the way that the Pacers were able to crawl back into this game was by drawing as many fouls as possible, because the foul is the holy grail of late game situations when you're trying to come back as a team, because it does two things: free buckets, and you
Right.
stop the clock. And both of those things play exactly into the hand that the Pacers needed to be able to possibly deal this comeback. And Mathernan, with his athleticism, his ability to go downhill and just beat people with speed and with power and with his verticality, he was able to slowly pull in the rope and get them within striking distance, where there was a real point in that game where they had us believing again. They were like, it's a 10
You
point
did.
game, they
Yeah.
can do this.
They brought it down to around 12 or 10. There was an 11-1 run. At that point, Matherin had 8 in the fourth, and he ended up finishing the game with perfect 10 for 10 from the free throws, which is very, very impressive in that stage on the road, especially
Yeah.
considering that the Thunder themselves shot pretty poorly from the stripe. But
And considering he cost them a game previously, or
he,
no one play
yeah, right,
ever
right, right.
costs a team a game, but like he had
He
a
had
very
the
rough
rough
stretch at the
ending.
line.
Exactly, the two missed free throws. You're totally right. So he himself had a pretty good redemption moment. He also had that. You're talking about his getting downhill. He had that really hard fall on that Lou Dort
Oh
contest,
yeah.
where I was kind of concerned for him. I thought like the slap on the ground was pretty vicious, but he after that is when he had his great run. And so yeah, Mathurin, we can honestly like he genuinely is one of the Pacers' only players that can go out there and score like that. Like at least the style that you would expect from like a star. And I think that there's serious discussions to be had about what Benedict Mathurin could be like on with a bigger role and what kind of level of a scorer he could develop into. But
You know who he
obviously,
reminds me of?
who
And this is actually really bad for him. He reminds me of Jalen Green without the expectations that Jalen Green has. Like, oh,
safe to say
picture
I'm the
picture
biggest, the
this.
largest.
Yeah, it's safe to say that was, dude. Did you see the new Wingstop commercial? They cut the old Wingstop commercial and they implemented a new one after he got traded.
No way, they did.
Yeah,
Oh,
safe
I
to
didn't see.
safe to say we'll never have to see that Wingstop commercial ever again. Put the wings in the bag, Jalen Green. We'll get to my frustration with him shortly. Don't worry. But he reminds me, like, if Jalen Green early on in his career was put in a better situation and had a smaller role where he was able to provide those bursts off the bench, where it's not an expectation, but it's a benefit when he's able to provide it. That's who he reminds me of. His ability as an elite athlete to get to the rim, his inconsistency with the three ball. Jalen Green also hunts a lot of those like difficult contested mid-range shots that Mathernan really seems to thrive on. And it's just the inconsistency. Like, Mathernan has the benefit of having a great team around him, to where, most of the time, fastball up and in is going to strike somebody out.
Right.
It's what the Pacers live on. But occasionally, when a team has a good read on that, they throw in Mathernan, they roll the dice, and if he's having a good game, that then usually it'll pull the Pacers close enough to be able to do something with that. And if he's not, then they just lose the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jalen Green, I see it.
That's a pretty good comp. Yeah, he's one of the Pacers' only scorers that can do that. I think TJ obviously can score at will pretty well too, depending on his matchup. And Siakam too. Again, we kind of like underestimate Siakam's value everywhere, but Mathurin is what they needed at that moment. He was giving them their shimmer of hope, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. You saw Carlisle be furious with the no calls and the
Oh
other
yeah,
various calls. Um, but yeah, we got another block by Chet on TJ. That was one of the only times where McConnell couldn't figure him out. Um, OKC burned their final timeout pretty early. There were 4 minutes left, and the full court pressure caused them to do that. So that was pretty exciting.
I
But
thought that would have mattered. I thought that was going to matter a lot more. I'm gonna be honest. I
yeah,
thought that was a really pivotal moment in the game, and it kind of just never panned out.
I thought so too. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure in the paint. when TJ was swarmed there. There was just a general lack of off ball movement. Um, and what else do I have? It looks like Nemhard made a three to make it a 10-point game. And then Chet had that quick dunk. And I know you mentioned, like, with less than 2 minutes in the game, a quick, easy dunk like that is valuable, but it's also, like, at that point, more valuable to just run the clock down. And that's
Yeah.
eventually what the Thunder started doing. SGA took his sweet time. And yeah,
Because Mathernan responded to that by driving down the court in probably 4 seconds and hitting an easy layup. And then at
exactly.
that point, what was the value of Chet's dunk there? It was nothing. It's just another hype and aura moment from Chet, who is just I know
Ready to
that we've
start
already
hating.
talked about him, but yeah,
um, and yeah, and then Aaron Naismith, who I love, and I'm always gonna call him a Celtics legend because I did quite like him when he played for the
mm-hmm.
C's back in the I don't know. Oh my God, I was unironically gonna say 6, 7 years ago. I don't know. I think he left like 5 years ago.
uh,
uh Yeah. No, no, no. He left more recently. He left because we traded for Brogdon. So that was like 3 years ago. And we got fleeced. And
yeah.
well, to be fair, Malcolm Brogdon,
Hindsight's 2020.
hindsight is 2020. Malcolm Brogdon won sixth man of the year and he was pretty good, but like he was not part of the Celtics long term goals. And but he was used in the flips of sorts to help get, Drew and Porzingis and also whatever. It ended up being fine. And I have no regrets that Naismith isn't on our team anymore. I'm just happy for the guy. Uh, but it was, yeah, seeing him tear up before the game even ended.
That was rough.
It was very very tough, and you could see the tears in the eyes of Pascal, and they showed some close ups of some other guys. Um,
McConnell a little bit.
yeah, TJ too. But then at the same time, the crowd was roaring, and you could see the tears in the eyes of other guys like Alex Caruso and J Dub, and I don't know if I saw Mark Date not cry. He doesn't seem like a very emotional dude, but
No.
anyway, like
Saw Hartenstein and whoever he was hugging jumping up and down on the sidelines. And if you looked back on like the wall of Thunder fans in the backdrop, they're all jumping up and down and hugging each other. And it's a wonderful moment. It's the dichotomy of the sports that we love. There's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser, and the difference in the ultimate highs and the most desolate awful lows.
that's
It's
it.
rough.
You got a good quote there, man.
what
uh,
is what is 2020?
2020. Oh, just like 2020 vision. That's all. Like when we're saying the hindsight, it's very
Oh, I
easy
thought
to.
I thought he was making fun of the bubble. I thought he was making fun of the Mickey Mouse ring.
You think you brought up the Mickey Mouse ring when we were talking about that like 40 minutes ago?
Hey, it's what the NBA loves to do. So who knows?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the fourth quarter before we just talk about final takeaways?
I'm good. That's about it from me.
All right. Well, yeah. So the Thunder have ended up with the NBA title, and so let's think some more. One thing to note, we can speak all we want about the dynasty that the Thunder have the potential to make. Of course, my Celtics when we won last year, I was overjoyed, and over the next couple months was like, this is a dynasty. We're set up. We have this incredible starting five. No one is leaving. I wrote like the longest sports thing I've ever written on my social media story a month later, and part of that was about how excited I was for the future. Most of it was just retrospective. But guess what? Things happen. Tatum tore his Achilles, and we're gonna have to blow up the team. And I'm gonna do a bigger Celtics analysis later, even though I
Ooh,
think
you really think they're blowing up the whole thing? You're convinced?
well, not whole thing. We have to get rid of Drew and Porzingis.
Yeah.
And frankly, given the trade market for someone like Desmond Bane, I would not be surprised if Derek White or Jalen Brown is not on the team at the beginning of next season because the Celtics are run by a very intelligent Brad Stevens, and he understands what's necessary in the modern age of the CBA and the second apron.
Gosh. Can you
Like,
imagine what Jalen Brown would command right now?
exactly. His value right now is the highest it will ever be, and that's why, as emotional as I would be if I were to find out that JB was traded, like, I think that there is a very solid likelihood. I don't know exactly which teams want him. Obviously, the dream one out there is the Spurs, because he would definitely fit the Fox and Wemby obviously timeline, but I don't know if they would do that. We can talk more about hypothetical Jalen Brown or Derek White trades. Derek White, by the way, like, he's basically a similar caliber player to Desmond Bane, better in some ways, maybe worse in others. But um, D White right now could go for like 4 or 5 first round picks, and that would just be the ultimate return, like, for how little we gave up to San Antonio to get him. And so, okay, I'm going on a tangent. What I'm trying to say is that it is so unbelievably hard to win one title. And we as NBA fans have developed a culture where we tend to judge teams based on their ability to ever win a title. And if you don't win, you're looked on like very, very negatively. And we can go through historical examples. Like, potentially, Jimmy Butler might not ever win a ring, right? But most people know that he was able to lead his team to 2 finals, and he's going to have respect for that forever. But he never actually was able to get the hardware. And so, how much does that separate him from the guys in the all time rankings above him? Or James Harden, you're a Rockets fan. You know exactly what happened with the brutal Chris Paul injury and how close they were. And Damian Lillard was just in an unfortunate situation and never got over the hump, and probably never will at this point. Like, the ring chasing culture is one of the worst parts of trying to judge NBA players, especially across eras, and that honestly feeds into the whole LeBron Jordan debate, because LeBron has made significantly more finals than Jordan has. That's a fact, but he's won fewer than half of them. That's also a fact. And does it mean that it's worse to make a finals and lose than it is to not make the finals at all? No, it simply is not. And so, all this to say, the Thunder have successfully won a title. As much as I think they are poised for the future, given their extraordinarily young roster, we mentioned that stat earlier, and their breadth of first and second round picks that they have, honestly, too many to count. And given all of that, like, they are poised to make a very be a very competitive team for the next several years. But at the same time, due to the CBA and the NBA right now and the laws regarding how teams can construct their rosters and pay players, um, in 1 or 2 short years, they're going to have to lose one of their big three, assuming Shea stays around. I'm guessing that J Dub or Chet will be gone. And there could be injuries, like I mentioned with Jason Tatum this year. There could be uh, players, going to free agency. There could be players retiring. Um, we don't know what could happen to the future of the Thunder, and it's even though I do want to say that they're again ready and like well equipped to stay competitive for a long time, we can't say. So we should just be grateful that they have this championship. And on the flip side, quickly, the Pacers couldn't get the job done. That doesn't mean that they were a super unsuccessful team. This is still one of the greatest success stories of the modern NBA. Just because they don't have the ring, it doesn't. It still means a thing. I don't agree with that saying. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got the ring. I'm not a fan of that. Um. Anyway, that's some general thoughts there. You agree with all that?
I mean, just to add on to what you were saying, which I all agree with, totally. We forget how the beginning of Chet's career was defined by, can this guy stay healthy enough to play a full season? I mean,
Right.
do you remember the memes when all it took was LeBron driving into Chet one time and he instantly got folded like a lawn chair and injured for an entire season?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I
Uh.
mean, like, nothing is given. Nothing is given in the world of sports. You can look at any sport, any dynasty, it all crumbles eventually. And you have to be thankful to have a moment like that. Like, looking at the if you were potentially a fan of the Cincinnati Royals or Rochester Royals
Oh
which
yeah, big
now
fan,
the
buddy.
which now the Sacramento Kings. No, I'm just saying, like, there are people out there who have literally lived and died, who are elite fans of their teams, who followed them their entire lives, who will never see their teams win an NBA championship, or who never saw their teams win an NBA championship. It is such a rare feat, a culmination of so many good decisions from the front office, investment, a passionate fan base in a market that's there to support them, to draw talent, good draft picks, getting lucky in things like the
I
lottery.
was uh, I was about to say I think luck is arguably like the most underrated part of all of this.
I mean,
It's
absolutely, it all comes down to luck. The ball can bounce any number of different ways, no matter how talented you are as a team. There is such a small chance of a team going from building to completion and winning an NBA Finals. So much so that, the Phoenix Suns have been around since 1968. They've never done it. The Clippers since 1970. If you follow say, St. Louis or Milwaukee Hawks, or the Rochester or Cincinnati Royals, these teams have literally never done it. The Magic, newer, younger team, still have never been blessed enough to bring home an NBA championship. we we tend to focus, and this isn't just a reflection of sports, this is also kind of a reflection of just life in general. We tend to focus on what's next a lot, and we tend to always look towards something new, or a logical next step in whatever, you're regarding, whether or not it be the next step of a rebuild or the next step of for a championship winning team. I know that you, as a Celtics fan, know exactly what I'm talking about, that sometimes we
yeah,
forget to sit and fully enjoy the infi- the infinitely small chance of what was just accomplished. To really sit and think and enjoy how crazy it was that the circumstances aligned for the Oklahoma City Thunder to stack as many picks as they did, for the Thunder to get Shea, and for Shea to be a generational, once in a lifetime talent, for all of these players to stay healthy through every minute of every game that they played this season. Like, it's an insane thing to do that. And the only thing that we really concern ourselves with in a lot of these situations are, well, what's next? And
exactly.
that's a very dangerous mentality, because, like, and like, Alabama or UCF or the Houston Astros or the Dodgers can, I mean, you can bring up hundreds and hundreds of teams that look to be building something that was incredible, something that was a dynasty. The Florida Gators, and then one day it just stops, and
You're
then you
absolutely right.
don't you don't have that feeling anymore, and you never know you're going to get that feeling again. So congratulations to the Thunder, congratulations to the Pacers for making it there. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got a ring is stupid. There's so much that goes into making an NBA Finals, especially for a team like the Pacers, who just had to
Right.
run through a gauntlet, and it's a run that we'll remember forever. It's something that gave us incredibly special memories that we'll share with our kids, that gave us the clutchest playoff run of all time. And
Agreed.
what a beautiful season at large, with the trades this year, the teams this year, the storylines this year. I mean, it's got to be one of the playoffs was beautiful. It's got to be one of the better NBA seasons of I'm not going to call it the best, but at least a top 3 NBA season of the last, I would say, 10, 12 years easily.
I completely agree. I think in my years as a fandom, which is about 12 years, this is one of the best I've ever seen. I'm partial to the Celtics last year. I think the 2016 obviously season was amazing, but this is right up there. We should talk about that in a future episode more. Um,
Agreed.
I have two general questions about the finals before we wrap up on it. The first one is, what would you say to a Pacers fan right now? Because the truth of the matter is that they just and specifically, what would you tell them about what you think about their future? Because they just lost in the NBA Finals. They couldn't get it done. At the end of the day, the goal is to win a ring, and this may very well be the closest the Pacers ever get in the Halliburton Siakam era. There might be moves that they can make, but um, I'm just gonna assume that Howley, has a pretty bad Achilles injury, right? So that means that he's out for a significant portion of next season, potentially all of it. Um, is this? Do you think this is pretty confidently the end of the road for the Pacers, or do you see some spark? Do you think they're still might be able to get the job done one day?
The Pacers team as it is right now, probably. Because as unfortunate as it is to be talking about this, and it's why you just really have to enjoy a moment like making the NBA Finals, the reality is that Halliburton just suffered an injury that some people never look the same after. That some players never come back and are able to be the same player ever again. And
Right.
that's a really scary thought for Indiana. And, my heart goes out to them and their fans having to deal with both the brutal reality of losing an NBA championship and the brutal reality that your star of the future is in a very uh, precarious situation right now. And his future is very, very much up in the air. Um, I'm sure that there are trades that they can make. They have role players that would be incredible pieces on other teams in spades. So even if you have to maybe trade off a couple key pieces to assemble some draft picks or to assemble some prospects that will maybe be ready down the line, um, I don't think Halliburton or the Pacers, for that matter, will be able to, have anything close to the run that they just had this year, this time next season. It was already a miracle run. It was already something that we will probably not see again in the next 50 years, what the Pacers were able to accomplish in this NBA playoffs. And without him, he's the engine of it all. And without him, there's really none of this is able to happen. So if I'm an Indiana fan and if I had to give them one piece of advice, it'd just be to sit tight. You have a very talented core. You have a group of players that play in a market that is beloved, a market that can clearly attract talent. You play for a coach that is probably one of the best in history at getting the most out of whatever he's given,
Mhm.
and you have a front office that is clearly more than capable of building a championship level roster. So you're just gonna have to sit tight and trust the process, not the Joel Embiid process,
Uh oh.
but
This is the last
you're
thing they
just
want to hear right now.
yeah, that is the last thing they want to hear. You're just gonna have to sit tight and trust in the people that are in charge. Trust in the players that you have. Siakam is still gonna be productive for a number of years going forward. Halliburton, prayers to him that his surgery goes well and his recovery goes well, is still gonna be a top player in the NBA if he can come back and be what he was before the injury. And with a combination of those two right there, that's a pretty great place to start.
It sure is. I agree with you. It's tough, and if this ends up being all they accomplished, that doesn't mean it was a failure. That's what Pacers fans have to tell themselves right now. And I would go ahead and buy a TJ McConnell jersey. Buy a Andrew Nemhard or Tyrese Halliburton jersey, and buy your Eastern Conference Championship merch. Um, I know I did after the Celtics won and then ended up losing to the Warriors. I was happy enough. And anyway, my final question is, how does this affect Paul George's legacy? Because
um,
the Thunder fleeced the Clippers to take SGA, the right now probably the best NBA player in the world. Um, and yeah, wow. Sorry, Paul George.
I mean, like real take. This is probably the most devastating thing that could have happened to Paul George's Pacers legacy ever. A,
Ever.
he's been surpassed by two players now in Pacers
Com-
lore, history,
Completely
whatever.
agree.
I think Siakam and Halliburton just blew him out of the water with this playoff run, and I'm
Uh-huh.
really sorry to say it for him. and I guess he's even third fiddle to or fourth fiddle to Reggie Miller as well. So he has sunk drastically down the Indiana leaderboards, and probably more so that his trade was directly responsible for building the Golden Goose, the Oklahoma City Thunder roster that wound up taking down his old team. Like it's just a
You're absolutely
catastrophic
right.
a catastrophic
Just
turn of events for
horrendous.
podcast P. Um, maybe he'll talk about it on his podcast. I don't know,
I
but
I don't even
rough
know what he would
rough
say, dude.
stretch for that guy.
I'm a Paul George fan. At least I used to be more of one. But
I am too.
just
I'll never stop thinking about what he could have been if not for the Team USA injury.
I know that's another story. Let us only hope that Tyrese can recover even stronger than PG-13 did. Um, but yeah, NBA Finals. The season is officially over. The Dagger will be continuing to talk about this past season and some reflections, and obviously there's a lot to talk about next season. Final thing though, I did want to say that we did predict the Thunder winning correctly. So shout out to Rajan actually, who during that bracket I was like, man, I really want to pick the Celtics. Already know. And we had Celtics Thunder, and he was like, don't do it. We're picking the Thunder. I can't do this. And he made the call. He made the call, and he was right. So also we did have the Pacers beating the Bucks, by the way, but we did not have them beating the Cavs. So I'm very sorry to them. This is my public apology. Um, and yeah, anything else, or are we good for the NBA Finals?
We're good. What a finals it was.
What a finals it was. All right. Well, we have a couple more topics that we'd like to discuss. Obviously, it's late already, but we're gonna start. The man has a hat, and now I have a subtitle. KD was traded today. Kevin Durant. Here's the official trade. I have it right here. From Shams this morning. By the way, shout out to Kevin Durant for hogging the attention on the day of Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Like, wow. Crispy, clean, hardened jersey. We're a big fan here. Um, the Phoenix Suns traded two-time Finals MVP Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets, of course, who Dylan is a longtime fan of, as well as a Magic fan, for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's 2025 draft, which is this coming Wednesday. And I believe that was the Suns' original pick. Regardless, it's already been decided it was the 10th pick, so they knew it was to come. And 5 second-round picks. And I laughed when I saw the 5 second-round picks because people just throw them in there as filler. I guess they're not really the value very high. Obviously, we know many second rounders who are elite. I remember a while ago when Jay Crowder was traded for 5 second-round picks. People were just like kind of confused why that happened, but
But Ramsey, the Rockets just traded away 5 Nikola Jokic's.
yeah, exactly. So that's what some Suns fans are telling themselves right now. Um, So yeah, just overall, like the other teams that KD was thinking about were like the Heat and the Spurs. That's kind of what he wanted. There are probably conversations, phone calls with like Minnesota or Detroit too. But at the end of the day, the Rockets end up outbidding them. I didn't think it would happen before the finals. I thought we'd have more time, but I've got a lot of notes and thoughts about this for both sides. But I will let you start, Dylan. Longtime Rockets fan. How long have you waited for this, and
So
how do you feel?
so this jersey I actually can't put on because it's a child small.
Well, there you go.
I probably got this jersey when I was it's a James Harden jersey. I probably got this jersey when I was 10 years old, maybe 9. Um, I've been a long time Houston Rockets fan ever since I gained some family connections that we married into to Houston. I've been a long time Rockets and Texans fan. The Texans are my one and only NFL team. Obviously, living in Orlando, the Magic come first, but very long time Houston Rockets fan as well. I've seen some absolutely incredible moments. I've seen some incredibly heartbreaking moments, but the entire time that I've been a Rockets fan, the one thing that's been consistent is that the Warriors have owned us, and we only seem to trade for players from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And sticking with tradition, it was only fitting that we acquired the final piece of that puzzle, and that is Kevin Durant, the Slim Reaper, the Durantula. Um,
It's got some good nicknames. I'll give him that.
he has some incredible nicknames. He's got to be like one of the goats of NBA nicknames. Just a very nicknameable guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, what do you want? Do you want my take on Durant? Do you want my take on like what this does for the team, what we're losing? What do you want first?
Let's talk first about what exactly KD adds, and specifically basketball wise, what does he feel that the Rockets needed?
Okay. So it's funny because I'm at my lunch break today and I am texting with you guys and you drop the alert in the group chat that Katie has just been traded. So I immediately go to Sham's Twitter and I'm looking through the comments and people are like, this is the dumbest trade ever. You traded our young and upcoming superstar for an old Kevin Durant rental.
Yawn.
Let's be very clear. A what is it, a Dodge Charger, or there's some saying in cars like something looks like a something until you put it next to something, like it's a certain reference in like just general like cars. I forget it, not like Cars the movie, I mean like cars and like just vehicles. But
Uh-huh.
Kevin Durant is in a different caliber of player than Jalen Green is, even in his old age. Could you pull up their stats from the last season? Just humor me.
I do have their
Um,
stats already. KD last year averaged 26, 6, and 4.2. Again, that's like a typical season for the older KD. He's aged gracefully. Averaged two
yeah.
stocks a game, about one of each. And he was shooting 50, 40, 82 ish. So, again, just the exact kind of productivity you'd want from Kevin Durantula. Um, and as for Jalen Green, oh, I don't actually have his regular season stats right now, but do you want me to read you his playoff stats from his series with the Warriors?
Yes, please read the playoff stats. That's what I actually care about.
Okay, good. Because against the Warriors, he averaged 13 points per game on 37% shooting. But wait a minute. He scored 38 points in game 2. That's pretty impressive, right? They did win that game. You know what? That's what we call in statistics a little thing called an outlier. So I'm going to ignore that outlier. In the actual important 6 games, Jalen Green averaged 9 points per game. Game 2 was the only time he surpassed 12. Like he shot better than 40%. He had horrendous shooting performances in every single other game. He's just the the prototypical example of the most inconsistent player in basketball, the most streaky dude I've ever seen, unbelievably inefficient at times. But to be fair, Rockets fans will tell you he was a number 2 overall pick. And so was Kevin Durant, by the way. But anyway, what do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Um, yeah, so kind of moving back to what does Kevin, before I lay into Jalen Green because it's coming. I've been holding it in for too long. Um,
Uh,
what does this add to the team? This adds the exact piece that the Rockets were missing. And there have been two trades this year that have been perfect fit wise, and that's the Desmond Bane trade and this KD trade, because they both address the core area of need that each team has. And for the Rockets, that's they need somebody who down the stretch they can give the ball to 10, 12 possessions in a row, who you know is going to get you a bucket. That is something that the Rockets struggled with tremendously in the playoffs, in the regular season. They don't have a guy on that team who can just take over a game as a scorer night in and night out. Sengun, infinitely talented. He's an incredible player. He's going to be an all star in this league for a very long time. But He is not somebody whose game you can give the ball to in those situations late in the game 10 to 12 times, and you're going to expect him to go score and get your team a bucket a vast majority of those times. It's exactly the kind of player that Kevin Durant is. It's the kind of player he's been his entire career, if not for, a foot size that's maybe a half an inch or less too big. We think
Yeah.
of him as one of the clutchest playoff performers of all time.
I saw
Um,
somebody say who's gonna stop this team, and somebody immediate reaction was Katie's foot. I'm like, not
yeah,
again, not again.
size whatever shoes. It'd be hilarious, right? But not really, because I'm a Rockets fan. I'd probably lose my mind. But so he adds that perfect piece that they need. And now to move on to what we're losing infamous crash out and honestly surprisingly great glue guy Dylan Brooks. I will say, when we made that trade from Memphis, I almost lost my mind. I was about to crash out very, very hard, but I was patient and I wanted to see what he would bring to the Rockets. And
Right.
frankly, he was incredible. I actually can't be too mad with Dylan Brooks' time here. He did exactly what we needed him to do, and that was to piss other people off and be a consistent force on defense and provide decent scoring. And he was very effective at doing all three of those things. Even though I hate his antics and I hate the way that he goes about his business, he's very good at what he does, and it served a purpose on this team. And he was a guy in the locker room who for sure was a glue guy, who for sure mentored younger players like
Yeah.
Thompson and Jabari. Um,
Yeah, he was really big on their defensive identity, and I think
yeah.
like I was a fan of the Celtics, obviously with Ime as the coach, and so you can just tell how much of that defense from that like title run in 2022 translated to the Rockets, and that
Mm,
culture that they have there with all your young, really scrappy dudes, strongly led by the aggressor himself, Dylan Brooks. It's just a great team, and so they are losing that. I think that in the short term, they're gonna feel the impact of Brooks' loss significantly more than Jalen Green's. But yeah, I agree with you there, though. All right, you're holding the mic a little close. What do you got to say?
if I had a nickel,
That's loud.
oh here, let me move back a little
That's
bit.
fine. That's fine.
If I had a nickel for every time I wish that Jalen Green was not on my basketball team, I'd have enough money to retire. I'd have enough money to buy a house in the Cayman Islands and never have a care in the world again. I'd have enough money to buy the Houston Rockets myself and kick that bum ass player off my team. I I cannot explain to you how much
I've been
I
waiting.
I cannot put into words enough how much I hate the wing stop, inefficient shot chucker, waste of a number 2 pick, horrendous anchor, locker room cancer, one of the worst all-around guards I have ever seen in my life. And it's not to say that he's that bad, but he is everything that I am against in the game of basketball. He is everything that prevented this Houston Rockets team from properly growing. And that there is this sick addiction in the city of Houston to Jalen Green. And I think it's because of the Wingstop commercial. But people love him there. People adore him there. And safe to say he's the biggest loser and the largest disappointment in Rockets history. I had such high hopes when we drafted him, and I was willing to put up with the antics and I was willing to put up with the inefficiencies early on in his career because I thought that he would grow into it. I really did. But he is a player who has just largely stayed the same in the worst way. In the worst way. And I have been looking for years for trade packages for him. I was willing to accept disgustingly low offers to boot him off of this team because I think that the core is so strong
and he's like this little growth of mold, extending his
Mm,
tendrils into our
right.
rebuild, slowly sucking money that could go to other places, taking minutes from guys like, like Atari Eason, or even, I mean, I guess Jabari's firmly in the lineup now, but originally a Jabari, a Reed Shepherd, like
I was gonna
guys
say
that,
Reed and Cam Whitmore this
yeah,
season,
Cam
right?
Whitmore, like guys that have a firm place in the eventual championship winning roster that will be the Houston Rockets. And then there's Jalen Green. And when you told me that we traded him, I'm not even kidding you. I threw my hands up and I started laughing with joy on my lunch break.
Got the
There's
Joker
probably
over here, bro. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's probably, and I know I'm being like a little extreme here, but for the people that just don't understand, like you just have to have been a Houston fan and to understand it. But I don't think I've ever disliked a player more. And there's a lot of dislikable players in this league. I mean, like Draymond Green exists, and I'm a Rockets fan, and I somehow dislike Jalen Green more than Draymond.
So this is like the most you've ever hated a player on your favorite teams.
Hate is a strong word. This is the most I've ever wanted somebody off of my team.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't
And
honestly had a similar feeling for many Celtics. Like
yeah,
I don't like Porzingis that much anymore, but it's not that personal. I get it though.
it's a new dawn. It's a new day in Houston, in H Town. Yes, yes, I did. Um, and Kevin Durant is gonna lead us to a championship. Like I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy. Realistically, I don't think it's actually gonna happen, and I can get into why maybe a little bit later. But all right, I'm done.
Yeah,
I got it out. Thank you.
awesome. All right, so let me add my thoughts on the KD edition. So I completely agree with you. I think they were able to maintain their identity while fixing their one massive fatal flaw.
No
Um,
future draft picks either.
yeah. So actually, let's jump to that first before I get into my X's and O's analysis. The Rockets gave up this year's pick in a couple days and a bunch of seconds, but they retained one of the this is kind of unbelievable that they didn't have to give this up, but they still own the Phoenix's 2027 unprotected first in 2 years. And
Yeah.
obviously, the reason why KD to Houston was such a popular trade package was because if the Suns get that pick back, they can start tanking and be in full control. No
Mhm.
long or sorry, that's no longer even in the equation. All they got was this year's 10th pick. That was the best first round and best pick they're gonna get for him. And obviously you can look at Jalen Green like he's a positive asset. I sure as hell don't. And you clearly sure as hell don't. And I can talk about why contractually speaking as well. But the Rockets are in an unbelievable territory with their picks because they have Phoenix's unprotected 2027 pick, and also they have two of the most favorable of Houston, Dallas, and Phoenix. And again,
Yeah.
who knows where Dallas or Phoenix or Houston should be competitive. Dallas probably will be, but we don't really know. And Phoenix should be terrible. So there might be getting, more Phoenix picks in the future. That's the 2026 one, I believe. But also, they didn't have to give up any of their important young pieces except Jalen Green, who at the end of the day was a rotation player, but you definitely don't think he's important. They kept Amen Thompson, obviously going to be a legendary player in the NBA, already one of the best defenders and probably the most athletic dude. Um, Şengün, Reed Shepherd, Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, that 2027 first rounder, which I would say could have been labeled as their most valuable asset. I mean, obviously they were never going to get rid of Amen Thompson or Şengün, but
And
um,
even older valuable assets like Steven Adams, still a pretty
right.
valuable asset in the NBA.
See, I saw somebody saying they would have rather given up Van Vliet than Jalen Green. And that
No.
honestly, that kind of pissed me off, right? Like
Yeah.
I
No.
get that Van Vliet is older, and this past season you mentioned Şengün having to deal with those end of game moments. I think Van Vliet was also the other guy who took on a lot of that. Um, and so now with this new lineup, he'll get to defer to KD a lot more, and that's going to be a great duo, I hope. Um, oh, they played against each other in the finals. It's interesting. I wonder if they have some sort of connection with that. But anyway, so yeah, the on the asset side, Houston's totally fine. Um, okay, I'm gonna go back to KD. So I mentioned KD's stats. If you want to look at clutch stats for people who played at least 5 games where there was some sort of clutch, like close element at the end, KD was top 15 in points per game in the clutch, which is out of like over 300 players. Um, the Suns, by the way, when KD played this year, they had a losing record, but when they played, they were 33-29. They, played on pace like a 43 win ish team. They were
Wow.
3-17 when he didn't. So that just goes to show how awful they were without him. Um, Also, I was looking at KD's mid-range stats because I was like, the mid. This is another maestro of the mid-range, as we were saying. Of all 42 players in the NBA last year that made at least one mid-range shot per game, KD was the most efficient at 53%. He still is. That's not that surprising of a stat. You and I know who Kevin Durant is, but
Yeah.
it's just worth pointing out. By the way, he was right above Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges. So again,
That
maybe
makes sense.
they do something good in Phoenix. And also in the top 10 were Halliburton and Shea. I made a note of that.
I
So
don't think they do a whole lot of good things in Phoenix,
yeah, they
unfortunately.
sure don't.
Except for fight each other, apparently, if you believe DeMarcus Cousins.
Dude, I have no idea what that meant. That kind of terrified me. What does Boogie know about what's going on there? Like,
I don't know. And he gets so defensive when Durant denied it. He was like, "Yeah, you're lying. You're a terrible person.
what do I know?
I, I hate
Um,
you." It was such a weird thing from Boogie.
so look, Houston is tough. They have a deep roster. They're great rebounding and great defensively. By the way, KD at his age, obviously he hasn't been like a all defensive type player, but he's still a good help defender. Just given his length and his ability to, I think like go under screens pretty easily. Also, he doesn't have the requirement of guarding the team's best player. Like think that's the job of a guy like Amen and Tari, and KD might end up guarding the third or fourth best player. And obviously he will end up being usually guarded by the other team's best defenders. And also he doesn't need to handle the ball too much. That's Van Vliet's job. That's Amen's job. And yeah, as I said, he's still a positive defender. But Houston has just had a terrible, terrible half court offense, and KD fits perfectly well. He can handle and create his own shot. He's an elite on ball scorer, off ball, obviously. And he's clutch. He's what they need in those end of game moments. And they really didn't give too much up for him. Yeah, do you have other thoughts on how KD fits?
Honestly, just one more thing. Ime Udoka, I love him. I think that I understand what happened with the Celtics, and I understand that
Uh,
they had to move on in
yeah,
that situation.
yeah, we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, but he, in my opinion, was the beginning of this turnaround because he's just such a phenomenal coach. He really knows how to build out a roster super well and to like it very similar to Rick Carlisle, how to get the most out of his guys and how to scheme to his team's strengths. And that's why we were so successful in the regular season. A lot of those issues kind of get exposed in the playoffs, unfortunately, just by the nature of what the playoffs are. You
Hmm.
get potentially 7 cracks at the same team over and over again, and you're going to find things that can be exposed if they're large enough issues. So seeing KD in an offense that will be completely revamped by Ime, very excited. I'm very excited to see how he fits in. I'm excited to see the kind of run that guys like Reed Shepard and Whittemore get now that the black hole is off the team.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I'm
would.
just super excited for next season.
You should be. I think for KD, hopefully this is the end of his career. Like he's got about I think 2 maybe 3 years left. I hope that I'm glad he's going to a team where there's championship aspirations, and I think this is a good way to finish it out if he does finish here because He doesn't, if he went to San Antonio, for example, I think he had to have a lot more pressure to win with Wemby. If he went to a team like Detroit, or a team more like Miami or Toronto, that was another team rumored. Like, there would kind of be no pressure to win, and that would just be strange. But
Yeah, he'd kind
he,
of just rot there until he
yeah,
had to retire.
right. But Houston, like, they have a really high ceiling, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think if they don't end up completely getting the job done, it doesn't mean it was a waste. And it was a good trade for the Rockets in that they're not sending themselves back, regardless of what KD's production ends up being. But he gets to go back to Texas too, obviously, where he went to UT Austin. He gets to reunite with Uncle Jeff Green, Celtics legend. They played
Oh
together.
yeah.
They played together on the Sonics. It's been a long time. Think about that. And also, I had a note too about all three of the Thunder ending up in Houston. So I wonder if there's a guy out there who has all the.
More.
Um,
Adams
yeah.
eventually found his way over. Who else? There were a couple other players.
Did Ibaka ever go to Houston? I don't know. I don't
No,
think he did.
no.
Chris Paul
I
was on both teams, but he wasn't on their team.
yeah. Chris Paul is like the weird inverse situation of that. But
Yeah.
I swear there was another, but I don't know. But the cycle's complete now. It's nice. It's nice to see.
And yeah, I think the Rockets are gonna get good clutch buckets. I think you know, what else do I have here? I would honestly, we were talking about the what player was it we were talking about, like the perfect situation earlier. We were talking about the finals. I don't remember exactly who it was, but um that dream fit. As while we are
Oh,
talking
it was
about that.
Chet. It was
Oh yeah,
Chet.
yeah, yeah. It was Chet, because we were talking about Paulo too. But yeah, that dream fit thing, that's exactly what, yeah, I when we were saying that, I was just reminded of my note that I wrote for KD. The Rockets get somebody who is a clutch go-to scorer with championship experience that I think will contribute positively to their locker room, who doesn't negatively impact what they already have, while KD gets to be surrounded by tough defenders and a culture led by a gritty coach with a young, deep roster and already proven regular season at least system. Like, this is a really, really good fit. And Kevin Durant obviously was the best they could have gotten, really. Like, they weren't going to pay significantly more for a potentially younger dude, and I don't even know who that would have been. Like, but this is a
Besides
good
Jalen
move.
Brown, there's nobody
Yeah,
else.
JB was the only guy I was going to say, and that, like, I don't know who they would have had to give up, but I don't think that would have been worth it.
Yeah.
This is a good trade for them. Um, the starting lineup too, it's probably going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but it should be Van Vliet, Amen, KD, Jabari, and Shengun, right? Do you think
Yeah.
Jabari will be the fifth guy?
I
Um,
imagine they invest in him and just it helps to have more shooters on the floor. I mean, not that Tari Eason can't extend the floor, but I
And
feel
I
like
just want to
they did
say,
that run
like,
to Jabari.
about that lineup, KD is like 7 feet, 6'11". Shengun and Jabari are both 6'10", and Amen is 6'7". That is a huge, huge lineup. Also, Van Vliet is obviously 6 feet, but
I mean, when you just look at the Rockets from like a length and like defensive standpoint, you could say that they are the biggest and the largest team that you could run into in the NBA, and like they give
you can say
teams
what?
it what the screen says right now, but they just give teams fits on defense. It's like a more athletic, rangier version of what the Thunder are, except less polished. But I they have the
Yeah,
potential to do what the Thunder did on defense. If they could just add like one more consistent guard defender, like some on ball pest, I'm sure you
yeah,
can take your pick of a ton of them in the NBA right now. It'd be one of the best defensive teams of our lifetime.
I agree. And I think too, we talked about their bench pieces. They also have guys like Steven Adams, Jacques Landell. Um, a name who I haven't heard a little bit is Jay Sean Tate. I'm not sure what he's up to, but I wonder if he'll be contributing more next season. Um, so yeah, that's mostly what I have from the Rockets' perspective. I would personally give this trade an A minus. I don't know. I don't know if I'll give it an A, just only because KD's like kind of old. but I like everything else about it. What would
Yeah.
you grade it?
I'd say an A, just because like I'd heard that teams were trying to lowball Phoenix, and I just think that's a natural consequence of the entire league knowing that KD wanted out, and so you could probably get him on the cheap. But after everything that happened with Desmond Bane and what he commanded in the market, I was shocked that Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and a pick that was basically considered to be an essential part of this deal anyway, for it to even happen. That's all it took. And I know the 5 second round picks, I don't care. Um, like incredible return of value for giving up far less than we ever thought we were going to have to give up. So I'd say I'd give it an A. It puts them in a perfect situation. Um, and I really couldn't think of any players that I would rather see traded than those two on this roster that would have moved the needle enough to get this done.
Perfect. So then let's talk about the other side. The Phoenix Suns. I don't know what you're doing, but okay. Um, the Suns in February 2023, they traded for KD and TJ Warren. And in that trade, they gave the Nets Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 firsts, and a 2028 pick swap. Now, what do they have to show for it? Jalen Green. and none and none of their own firsts, none until 2031, unless you count the pick in 2 days, which I sure as hell don't. So yeah, it's pretty dark days in Phoenix, and the guy who's suffering the most, Devin Booker. What does he do to deserve this? I just wanted to say an extremely fun fact. I think the Suns have the worst roster, like the worst constructed roster I've ever seen. This is not the worst talent in the NBA. They'll win more games than like the Hornets or whatever next year, but their 5 highest paid players are Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, and Dylan Brooks, all of whom are shooting guards. Unless you say Dylan Brooks is a small forward. Okay, sure. But even if you exclude him, they are all shooting guards. Like, are you kidding me? Now, is this positionless basketball? I don't know. I sure as
No, this this isn't basketball.
This is not basketball, dude. This is yeah, Jalen Green, everybody knew that the fit next to Devin Booker is kind of atrocious. And also especially since you have paying Bradley Beal $53 million to sit on the bench and cry.
Bradley Beal, he's truly living his best life. He'll never leave Phoenix if he has the option.
I don't think
He
he should.
gets paid. I'm sure he just gets to go. What do NBA players do in their free time? Probably golf. He just gets to go golf in the middle of
I don't know.
Phoenix,
Maybe
Arizona.
the clubs in Phoenix maybe are good. I have no idea.
Possibly.
But
He would know.
I'm sure he would. He's got free time, bro. Like James Harden was exploring too. Um, but yeah, dude, of those 5 players I mentioned, that actually takes up 115% of their cap space. Now, technically, every NBA team is over the cap, and then you get into the first apron and second apron. The Suns are in the second apron. Oh, they're well in the second apron. They're actually $12 million into the second apron, even after this trade.
Oh my gosh.
But like those 5 players alone, all shooting guards, take them over the initial cap. There is rumors actually. You bring up Bradley Beal. There's a rumor that the Suns might try to buy him out or desperately trade him. Obviously, he has a no trade clause, so the odds of him going somewhere are extremely low. He probably wants to finish his career there, but they could buy him out. And again, buying him
I
out would
saw a
cost
lot of stuff about buying him out. Yeah.
about $53 million. So, uh, yeah, positionless basketball was just a dumb joke. Um, now, do you think Jalen Green will be moved? That's a suggestion that people brought up. I don't see why he would be.
So I looked this up literally a couple minutes ago because I was seeing some buzz when we were first reading about all this stuff that he was going to get moved again. And as of right now, they have him in the projected roster. They say
Okay.
that they're going to keep him. Um, as for the 5 shooting guard lineup, I like to think of this as punishment from the basketball gods, as the last official nail in the coffin of the super team era.
This is the worst fall from grace we've ever seen. In this,
Possibly, like you just said, the worst fall from grace we've ever seen. They had a roster that was built on quality role players, great star play from Booker, um, and they gave it all up. They gave all of it up. They sold their soul for Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and everyone else, and it just genuinely worked out in the worst way possible. Monty Williams is banished to hell.
oh my god, I forgot Monty Williams was still collecting paycheck from Phoenix, dude.
Yeah, after winning coach of the year, they cast out their arguably most successful coach in the last 20 years. Um, they they traded Bridges, who eventually became a star in his role in New York, and before that an all-star caliber player in Brooklyn. They got rid of
Oh
all of
hey, we got Alex here. What's up, Alex?
what's up, Alex? They got rid of all of their incredible role players that were just doing incredible things. Aiton's gone. Who is the point guard of that team?
Chris Paul?
Yeah, it's Chris Paul, right? Chris
Yeah.
Paul is 1 foot into a retirement home. It's
Yeah.
just
Jay Crowder,
unbelievable
Cameron
how bad
Payne,
this
Cam
worked out for
Johnson.
them.
They
Yeah,
really had
Cam
a
Johnson looking phenomenal.
they had an amazing lineup. Um it is really sad. Like I think being a Suns fan right now is about as bad as it can get.
Because
And
there's
Devin,
no future. There's no hope.
there's none. Again, they like as badly as they might want to tank, they literally don't own any of their own picks. They have some other teams' picks that they could hope would pan out, but you got Devin Booker who was playing a bunch of point guard last year who does not want to do that and is now surrounded by a bunch of guys who are play his position. You got Jalen Green who's a shooting guard 20
If I had to play next to Jalen Green, if
20
I'm Devin Booker, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind as well. He's a 23-year-old who had the worst series of any person in the playoffs this year, and his contract is horrible. He is making $33 million next year, and then 36, and then 36 with a player option, and then he'll become an unrestricted free agent at the age of 26. I think the Rockets saw that as okay. Well, first of all, the fact that they were able to give him that contract that let him become an unrestricted, and with that money, did help them make the KD trade. So I don't know if there was some sort of long term planning there, but that also contract alone is like one of the worst contracts in the NBA by far, given what he has right now or what he's shown right now. I don't know how much he could potentially improve. Like, what do you realistically, Dylan? What do you see Jalen Green accomplishing in his tenure in Phoenix?
In like the larger scale of the NBA, or
No, like just him
just
himself.
his himself. I honestly think it's a great situation for him because there's zero expectations. He's been put in an absolute dumpster fire. Oh, I'm going to take 45 shots tonight, all from behind the arc. Who cares? Like, genuinely, who cares? It'd probably be more interesting than them just playing basketball the normal way, or them trying to play basketball the normal way. He's been put in a perfect situation. He's been put in the Benedict Mathurin situation where
Mm,
there are now no expectations, and he gets to be the player that is either going to score 45 points on 25 shots, or he's going to score 9 points on 35 shots, and nobody's going to care. Like, he
right.
has literally been banished to the closet. Like, he's been stuck in the Harry Potter home under the cupboard or under the stairs, where nobody is going to pay attention to him or remember that he existed outside of the Wingstop commercial.
He's the
which I
biggest.
think is gone now. So he doesn't even have that anymore. I think it's a perfect situation for him. I think that his ceiling is going to be a slightly more efficient version of what he is now. I never think that he's going to be a consistent player. It's just not in his nature. It's not in the way that he plays. And if he is, I don't ever think that he'll be the kind of player that you can build a championship team around again because of the way that he plays. And who knows, maybe in 10 years from now we'll look back at this and be like, wow, what a stupid take. But right now, given what he's shown, we have no reason to believe that he will ever do anything meaningful in the grand scheme of the NBA. He may keep scoring, he may keep, night in and night out doing the things that he does and keep chucking up shots and put up eye-popping numbers that when you look closer really aren't that impressive because it's just his MO. It's just who he is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, my man. Jalen Green also will be taking up shots and whatever development might Phoenix be trying from some other guys. I don't know what the future holds for Bradley Beal. I hope he just takes his money and dips. But
Nothing bright.
again, the
Poor
Phoenix
guy.
roster is like genuinely atrocious. They have Nick Richards, Oso Ighodaro as their center depth. Actually, Nurkic maybe. I don't know where Nurkic is right now, or if he's a free agent. He might be a free agent. Also a free agent is Bull Bull. He was just on the team, but not.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get signed anywhere. Other players they have on their team. Ryan Dunn was one of the most promising rookies this past year, but again, it's just not a good situation. Tyus Jones, who we're going to talk about the Magic, and I like Tyus Jones as an idea for the Magic, for example, but like Tyus Jones had some good moments with KD too. I think KD and Tyus Jones did a lot of KD was able to switch onto Tyus' defender quite a bit, and so I imagine that KD's familiarity with that he can apply it to Van Vliet like pretty easily. So
Yeah.
that should be good. But yeah, the Suns
Um,
are my grade for them. I'll let you say your grade first. What would you grade them?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of just irrelevant. Like
It is
I
relevant.
feel like no matter what they did, it was just not going to work out for them. I give them a C plus.
Yeah, I gave them a C, and the con. Even though this is a pretty bad trade, the genuine truth of the matter is that it was their fault. I wrote they waited too long. They should have blown this up way earlier. They
True.
never should have traded for Beal, obviously, with how many firsts they gave up and with the no trade clause. But they also should have sold higher on KD like a year ago. Um, we got Alex here
Yeah,
talking
he's
to
trying to he's
trying to
trying to get us to
talking
start
some
a war.
conflicts. We already started
You
a
know
war with
who
Suns fans. It's okay.
who's safe from the draft? Jalen Green, because whenever he shoots, he can't hit anything. He'll never be drafted to
He'll
the
never
war. So
pass
that
target practice, bro.
no, he'll never pass. First off, that word is not in his vocabulary. But
That's
so
funny.
that there's a little bit of a impact to this upcoming NBA draft. Sure, I mean, I don't know. What if Walter Clayton Jr. Would you go to war for Walter Clayton Jr.? I think I would.
Would I go to war for Walter Clayton Jr.? Believe me, buddy. I could give a TED talk on the things I would do for Walter Clayton Jr. Um, yeah. Anyway, let's wrap this up. The easy money sniper to Houston should be a fun season, and then
Go Rockets.
go Rockets. And we got one more major thing to talk about. It's already pretty late, obviously, but there's one very exciting news to discuss, and that is
Play the song. Play the song.
oh,
Oh, there goes my
Desmond
energy.
Bane. Dylan and I here are both Magic fans, and there's his jersey. Is that the new Polo jersey or the old Polo jersey?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the old Polo jersey, conveniently on clearance sale because we rebranded. Thank you, Orlando Magic front office.
I like the jerseys. I think it's a solid rebranding. I don't know about the
I
logos.
love them. The logo. I think the logos will grow on us. It feels like the globe logo thing is kind of the direction that the NBA is moving. I think will grow. I think it'll grow on us.
We're the only ones that can do that
All right, buddy.
well,
Okay.
bro. Nobody
Okay.
else can pull it off. Ours is the best in the league. Nobody else. To the Magic, the official trade. Desmond Bane was traded on Father's Day this past Sunday. Well, I guess last
Hmm.
Sunday. For Cole Anthony, Contavious Caldwell Pope, the 16th pick in this draft, Phoenix's first round pick in 2026, which I'll explain in a second, and then the Magic's unprotected first in 28 and 2030, and a pick swap in 2029. So yeah, that's a pretty loaded haul for Desmond Bane, which on the surface, at the end of the day, he's not an all-star player. So if you never watched a Grizzlies game in your life and you don't know their third best player, Desmond Bane, you would be kind of confused why the Magic paid this much for him. The Magic, by the way, for this year, they still own the 25th pick in the draft, so they no longer have the 16th. Unfortunately, getting rid of that option limits the ability to get someone like Walter Clayton Jr., who may or may not still be there. I don't really know. Um, but there's still options for the Magic, and we'll talk about what they might want to get at the 25. Uh, but it was an interesting trade for both sides. But we definitely need to start with the Magic. Oh, okay. Actually, before I do that, I just want to explain like the 2026. People were acting like we gave up Phoenix's 2026 first round pick. It's much more complicated than that. Um, really, the reality is that it's a what does it say here? It is the kind of okay. Here's how it works. If the Suns first is better than the Wizards, then their picks get swapped, and then the Magic get the right to swap if their pick is worse than the remaining pick, and then the Grizzlies get the right to swap for that pick. So essentially, they kind of get the worst of like the Wizards and Suns. So I guess if the assumption is that the Wizards are definitely going to be better than, or sorry, worse than the Suns, then you can say we gave up the Suns pick. But there's also like clauses involving the Knicks and the Hornets. It's just a really complicated pick. So again, like, and also given that Phoenix has Jalen Green and still has D Book, I don't really think they're going to be a 15 seed level team. I think
No.
they'll be pretty low. They will be in the lottery, but who's to say? Desmond Bain, he's a good guy, and so I actually would like to talk about why I think Desmond Bain is a good guy. Um, all right, I think this trade for the Magic is a huge win. Let me throw some facts at you. This season, the Magic were last in 3-point field goal percentage on catch and shoot threes, and that was actually the worst they had the worst 3-point field goal percentage in a season since the Lakers about 10 years ago. Okay, one of the worst 3-point shooting seasons all around. The Magic desperately need 3-point shooting and spacing, and we haven't had a top 20 offensive rating since. Do you want to guess when, Dylan?
Oh gosh. If you're asking me to guess and you're sounding surprised, it's got to be longer than the Vucevic teams. So I'm gonna guess the Rashad Lewis teams.
Okay, yeah. I think that might be too far, but the answer is 2012. So,
2012.
yeah, pretty far away.
That's
2011.
that's horrific.
Yeah, in the last 13 years, the Magic have been a bottom 10 offense every single time. Um, again, we've had solid teams. We've made the playoffs several times. Doesn't matter. Also last year and for the last 3 years, if you look at where the Magic were in just 3 pointers made, the they were sixth last 3 years ago. They were last last year. They were last this year. So yeah, they don't care about the threes. So let's talk about Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane is a 26-year-old who, just simple stats for you guys. He averaged 19, 6, and 5 in 69 games this season. And in all five seasons with Memphis, he's averaged about 18, 4.5, and 4. And he's a shooting guard. That's his primary position. But I would love to throw some 3-point stats at you because The casual fan might know that Desmond Bane played in a 3-point contest a couple years ago, but do they know this? Desmond Bane is one of 3 NBA players with 800 made threes and 40% 3-point shooting since he entered the league in 2020. In those 5 years, he's shot 43% on catch and shoot threes, which is the third best among all players in that time frame. Third best. He's a career 41% shooter from the 3-point line. He's just one of 9 players who have shot 39% or better on at least 7 threes per game over the past 3 seasons. Again, these are like, obviously like cherry pick stats and all, but like they're very specific and they demonstrate the 3-point volume that he has. Uh, Desmond Bane was the second best player uh, in terms of percentage of catch and shoot jumpers off movement per sport radar in the league last year, only behind Steph Curry. That's the level of catch and shoot ball movement that Bane is involved in. He's lethal with pulling up off of a screen and also I think creating his own shot. He's very good at it. And the Magic were dead last in 3-point accuracy, like I said. In his 27 playoff games, Desmond Bane is 40% 3-point shooting. He's just an extremely consistent 40% 3-point shooter. And also, if you look at um all-time NBA list of the highest 3-point field goal percentage with a minimum of 250 3-point field goals made just in NBA history, Desmond Bane is 25th in NBA
Wow.
history. That list, 253s is like a very fair number for just somebody who had average, who like has a solid 3-point shooter. He has one of the best efficiencies of all time, and all those stats that I said beforehand, those very specific stats that different sources came up with, um, all demonstrate how good of a shooter he is right now and how he is exactly what the Magic need. So yeah, I do love this trade, and I have more thoughts on Desmond Bane too. What else he can do? But are you excited for the shooting that he could bring? Hopefully not the Ja Morant type.
I mean, yeah, hopefully not that type. Um, this is Orlando, little bro, not Memphis. But
Exactly. Don't bring that with you.
yeah, don't bring that with you. But with all those incredible mind-breaking stats in mind, naturally when he you're right, Alex. I like to think of it that way too. But with all of those incredible stats in mind, naturally the minute that he got off the plane in Orlando, he'll probably devolve into a 20% 3-point shooter, and will look horrific, and we'll be like, why did we trade for this guy? And we'll throw Jeff Weltman out with pitchforks and torches, and we'll throw him off the Orlando eyesore, or the I-4 eyesore, and
Right.
all that good stuff. But realistically, I'm so excited for this trade. I think that there are very few situations in which you both have the ability to trade for somebody of Desmond Bane's caliber and lose relatively little of what your current production is, all while gaining somebody who is probably the best fit of any player that I could think of in the NBA for this Magic team and its needs.
Best.
Um, you like I could not think of a single other player that we could possibly trade for that would be a better fit for this place. And I was listening to the young man in the three today. They it did an
You
interview
did? Did
with
you? I already listened to that too. His interview with him.
yeah, he seems really excited to be here. Like you can tell when
He did.
players are faking it and are just giving like the right answer. He had this place circled. He knows the value
Right.
that this young roster brings. He knows the value that he brings to this young roster, the ability to help space them out, the ability to help improve shooting instantly, to maybe relieve some pressure on some other of our key 3-point shooters. Not that we have a lot of them, but to maybe
Slim
relieve some
pickings.
pressure on those guys, and just open up opportunities for the offense, open up lanes for Paulo. It is a match
Yeah.
made in heaven. He is an above average facilitator, which is something that I particularly love to see. especially with the thought that we might be running point Suggs again, which I'm not fully sold on
Not,
point
yeah,
Suggs.
not the most exciting idea, but
So I would feel much more comfortable with point guard by committee with Desmond Bane, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black backcourt, and of course Paulo and Franz taking it up whenever they feel like it. And
and my go Jonathan Isaac. We all want to see that.
we on everyone's soul, I want Jonathan Isaac taking the ball up the court as everyone's soul disappears simultaneously. Um, it's just it's so rare for the Magic to acquire players like this. Like we're a team that seems to never get it right. And as depressing as that is to say, if you look at the past 15 years, we seem to make the wrong decision time and time again in these crucial moments where we have to either acquire talent or trade off the right group of people. And this is the first time where I am really confident that we made the right decision. Because at the very least, even if he doesn't work out, as much as, and I would like to say this real quick, the city of Orlando will miss Cole Anthony. The city of Orlando will never forget Cole Anthony for the man
For
that he
sure.
was in the community, for the man that he was in a team that was just straight up depressing to watch at times. The spark that he provided, the joy that he provided, for the guy that he was in the locker room, for mentoring all these young guys, for the way that he treated the fans. Or let's face it, Orlando's not a glamorous market. Orlando is a market that a lot of these NBA players look at and shun and don't want to acknowledge and would hate to play here.
Hmm.
And Cole Anthony loved this city and he embraced this city. He embraced the fan base. He embraced the team. He was a phenomenal leader and he
Right.
was a phenomenal player when we needed him to be. In the stage that the Magic were in, he was exactly what we needed. And it sucks that we have to move on from him, but we
Yeah.
have championship aspirations now. And we are put in a new conversation now with this Desmond Bane acquisition. And that conversation is Eastern Conference Finals with a chance to go to the NBA championship. It's real.
I agree.
Orlando is here. It's the time that we've all been waiting for decades. And it's time for us to go out and capitalize. And that's a really exciting thing. I'm not even going to talk about Contavious Caldwell Pope.
Yeah, let's not give him the time of day, bro.
Yeah, we should have left him on the tarmac long ago. But
Um,
what a
yeah,
what an acquisition for the Magic. Weltman finally did his job. He earned his paycheck. Maybe just this once. We'll see. But
maybe he did. All right. I completely agree with everything you said. You had a good summary there. So let me go back in and share some other key thoughts I got. I've been reading about and I watched some more clips about like what demonstrating Bane's strengths that he offers besides just obviously being a great shooter. He is a above average defender. He attacks closeouts very aggressively. He runs around screens very quickly, so people say. Also, he's quite good rebounding. He finished in 96th percent in defensive rebound rate among all wings last year. So it's a very impressive
wow.
stat right there. And he's a great shooter in movement and in transition, like in the fast pace. If the Magic are trying to work on their fast break offense, and then yeah, you talk about the playmaking. He did help run the offense when Ja wasn't out there, which was quite a bit of the last couple seasons, and he helped. That's how he got up to those like 5 assist numbers. And so I think that with that experience, he could immediately contribute. And I also don't think we're gonna have that traditional point guard anytime soon in Orlando. It's gonna be that committee thing that you mentioned. Um, but yeah, he's a competitive dude too. And in terms of the culture, also with the interview that he gave, he clearly is excited. He already likes Paulo and Franz. He even said he's into Mo Wagner. Like he's ready for the smoke. Like that's exciting stuff, dude. And he's
Yeah.
generally like Memphis fans knew that he was a competitive and gritty guy who fit with the rest of the team and was a good presence in the locker room. So just a complete positive. I think also, just being a good perimeter shooter, tough defensive 3-point dude. You want to talk about other options? I think, frankly, one of the best version of Desmond Bane right now in the NBA is maybe like Jalen Brown, you know? And there's some other guys out there too. But like I think that the package that we gave up for Bane is much more reasonable than what we might have had to give up for JB. And I also think too that when we think about the potential of the Magic winning a title, like it's just so obvious how well Desmond Bane fits the exact archetype of Derek White during the Celtics championship and Klay Thompson during I would say the KD Warriors chips, but like being a go-to 3-point scorer, a great on-ball defender. They're all the shooting guard guys who are the third best player on their team. Like it just all fits together perfectly. And Desmond Bane, if you tell him he has to be the third best uh player on a championship team, I think that he's gonna fit into that role exceedingly well. And I think that at a simple like analysis of paying for 4 first round picks for a third best player, that sounds like a bad idea, but he elevates our team in a lot better ways than just being there. And I think that he's gonna make the people around him better. I think that he fits really well all the things I just described. If
We
you want to talk
also
about,
have so much young talent that like
we do
where do the minutes go to those draft picks?
exactly right. That's what I think. Like, I can jump ahead to that honestly. Like, I think it was worth it because why wait around? We're going to have an expensive ish big four. It's pretty inevitable. The Magic are going to have to start paying Paulo, Suggs, and Franz. And now we have a new Bane contract, which is pretty high. But I think Weltman made a great move. This is waiting for a scenario, where a superstar, maybe better than Bane, wants to come here, and in that dream scenario, we outbid everyone. Like that doesn't always happen, and if it does, you often feel like you forced your hand and you made a decision that could negatively impact the team for longer. But Weltman was active, and he got somebody that fits really well now and fits extremely well with the timeline. Again, he's 26 years old. Um, but I agree with you too. The picks in future years, like who's to say how good they would be? There's a good chance none of them would become better than Desmond Bane. And if they did, they're years away. We want to start contending for a championship now. We have the roster to be able to do that. In fact, given Tyrese's unfortunate injury today, I can confidently say the Magic are like a top 3 team in the East next year.
Yeah.
With the Knicks and the Cavs being the only two that I would say are probably going to have a better regular season. But even the Knicks, I don't know. And the Celtics, frankly, I have no idea. But it's very exciting. And so that was a great move. And I think that those picks, especially since they're probably going to be late 20s picks, given how good the Magic are going to be, like they're totally, totally worth it to get somebody who fits what we need right now. Um, let's see. Alex actually asked a real question. Y'all
Yeah,
really
this
think
is this is actually the closest thing to basketball I've ever heard him talk
y'all
about.
really think Desmond Bane gonna fix a team that doesn't even know what a point guard is? He's using ChatGPT to come up with insults for Magic fans, bro.
Plus, that's just terrible. We have
This
Anthony Black.
this is the same fan base that thought Mo Bamba was Hakeem. Get out, bro.
Hakeem never had a funny song.
Um,
Last
yeah,
one I can agree. The last one I can agree with. I mean, we were just talking about that.
yeah, we do make terrible decisions, and
Allergic to
frankly,
good
we
decisions.
don't
Yeah.
have many good point guards. No, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, I have other thoughts too about the general trade, but do you want to add something?
Honestly, I'm good on adding things, but I will ask the question after you get through whatever else you had prepared. What's the
Okay.
expectation for this Magic team?
Yeah, I think I ooh, wait. I'm gonna check the link that I have. Um
Is it an important links?
no, it's not. I saved like, me not sponsored, but I saved the FanDuel a couple weeks ago. They came out with the odds for the next year's champions. And so, all right, what do you got?
FanDuel Live Bet Sports app.
Oh, stop. um. Okay, I only opened this up to check because I was pretty confident that the Pacers must have shifted significantly given what happened today, and they did.
Yeah.
The Pacers were like a top 7 team ish in odds, and they just dropped to like 15th. That's brutal.
Oof.
Dude, the Pacers have shorter odds to win the title, or worse odds to win the title than the Sixers.
That's brutal.
Hey, man, we made it, bro. Okay, first of all, do you want to guess the top 6 teams by likelihood to win the championship according to FanDuel next year?
Number 1, Thunder.
Correct.
Number 2, probably the Cavs.
Correct.
Number 3,
Number 3 and
the
4
Rockets.
number 3 and 4 are a tie.
Number 3 and 4 are a tie. Are they East or West?
One of each.
One of each. Number 3 in the West. It's got to be the Rockets.
It is.
And then you said the East. No. No way. No. Okay. The East. Is there a really obvious team that I'm forgetting? Because
Yeah,
it's
I already mentioned them.
1:41 a.m. You already mentioned that. Oh, just go ahead and say it.
The Rockets are tied with the Knicks at plus 900.
Oh, the Knicks. There we are.
And then who do you think is at plus 1300 in tied for 5th and 6th? There are 2 East teams.
Tied for 5th and 6th. I think it's the Orlando Magic.
And the Boston Celtics, who are still being given a lot of credit because
Wow.
obviously we have a great team. But yes, I just want to tell you the Magic have plus 1300 odds and the Rockets have plus 900 odds. They're both top 6 teams in championship odds. You got to feel pretty good about yourself, Dylan.
I just What do you mean, Dylan? We have to feel pretty good about ourselves. We have top
you're right.
6. We have top 6 championship odds. This is incredible.
I just said you because I threw the Rockets in there too to show how their growth, both of theirs.
I mean,
Dude,
like, this
Dylan,
is awesome. We made it.
Alex is actually rage baiting. Look at that.
Bro.
Cole Anthony, a legend in Orlando. Bro averaged 9 points on vibes. We're not interacting with you, dude.
Bro.
The Rockets are just a G League team with better jerseys.
That's actually kind of funny.
That insult is like 2 years old, dude. It doesn't even apply anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This is Alex will understand what I mean. This is our AI conversation with Henry Alex. This was a whole long conversation.
Whatever that
But
means,
bro did not know who Cole Anthony was before today. Bro probably still doesn't know who Cole Anthony is.
Okay, let me spit out some other things I think about Bane. I would say here's his weaknesses, okay? Bane famously is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He is you know what I'm talking about? He is 6'5" and his wingspan is 6'4". So that is like, oh my god. That is one of the only things where I'm like, yeah, that does not really match the what the Magic got going on. But I think it's all right. I think his strength as a defender is he doesn't necessarily block a lot of shots, but he's good enough in other aspects. He's not exactly a point guard. That's a weakness, I suppose. And also his injuries. So he
Right.
battled some back soreness and tightness a few years ago. 2 years ago, he had to get right toe surgery. And that was in May in 2023. And also in early 2024, he had a left ankle sprain. So he's just had a couple different parts of his body get hurt. It's just unfortunate, like that he's had that. It hasn't. Nothing's been seriously like career derailing. That toe surgery could potentially be have the longest like long term impacts, but I think generally he's been pretty consistent and available, unlike Ja, who has been gone for so much of his career. So Bane has been holding the fort down in Memphis for quite a while.
How are his obliques? Do we know?
That's a funny question. I think he's fine on that front, and I hope that the Magic hire the best oblique doctor in the world to make sure nothing happens.
True.
Yeah, some other notes. Also, Alex is right. We did go see a Magic game where Cole Anthony was in the game, so he's already familiar with Cole Cole from Ninjago. Anyway,
Mm.
let's see. Who knows what the other options were, or Memphis's other bidders? Uh, I also
Don't read
said
the comment.
I said maybe Jokic oversold KCP's value.
Yes, yes,
Um,
I subscribe to that so heavily, and you know it's gonna happen. Michael Porter Jr. is gonna get traded, and everyone's gonna realize that every single player on the Denver Nuggets is just completely oversold by how good Jokic is.
yeah, and I think it was unbelievably apparent with KCP here, and also not to mention KCP has 2 rings. His first ring was with LeBron. So when you play against like the greatest facilitators in the modern NBA, of course you look like a incredible shooter and an amazing asset. But when you have to remotely do something for yourself, KCP Alex is getting on my nerves right now. I'm trying to ignore it. I'm gonna close the chat, dude.
They need
Um
like an automatic chat AI that cooks them back.
oh yeah, dude, you're right. If this was
Just
Twitch, we
yeah,
could
Twitch.
make a chat bot to use ChatGPT to hurl insults at him back. If Tatum had a ring for every playoff injury excuse, he'd have oh wait, still none. 90%. No, I'm
You know,
ignoring.
this reminds me of this one time in Singapore where a random basketball player was mentioned, and I just had to bring up Singapore because basketball exists there as well.
W country, but Alex wouldn't know anything about it, I'm sure. Um
No, Alex would never have a time in Singapore where anything happened.
he doesn't know anything. um okay, anyway. Uh yeah, I think we didn't want to mention KCP, but I thought that was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So by the way, there were other people. I don't know who the Magic could have gotten that was better. You mentioned this point. Obviously people wanted a point guard, right? So hypothetically
Anthony Simmons.
there were LaMelo Ball or Trey Young trades.
There was
Those
a
were
LaMelo Ball trade?
dude, there were ideas for LaMelo Ball trades. Yeah.
Really?
Not like I don't know if they ever made the call, but um those were like the better young point guards that maybe we could have got, and I think that some people were complaining when we didn't get one of those. But
Hmm.
Desmond Bane is clearly like fits better with our identity, and he doesn't have that glaring defensive weakness that Trey, for example, has. But yeah, you just mentioned his name. There were other more realistic and probably more affordable options too, like Anthony Simons, Kobe White, uh, Colin Sexton, Jordan Poole. Everybody saw that report.
No.
Maybe even an older like Malik Monk. But I genuinely think that none of those guys would move the needle enough, and they all are worse on defense than Bane is. And I would rather spend more on someone with a significantly higher ceiling and what he can contribute to the team. So
Yeah.
you agree that Bane was the best pick, right?
The problem with Kobe White, I don't mind the Kobe White, I don't mind the Anthony Simmons thing. The problem with those two players, though, is that you're gonna have to pay them
You
during
will.
the same timetable that you're gonna have to pay the other, the other three core guys, and that's inherently gonna mean like the Magic are not a big market team. We're not gonna want to fly too high on the tax, and we're
Mhm.
just not gonna be able to keep all four of those guys. With Desmond Bane, you know what he is on the salary sheet. He's like 4 years, 4 year contract, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 30s or high 30s, I think. I'm not sure. I'll pull it up.
So you know what cut that of the team's cap that he has with a guy like Kobe White or Anthony Simmons. You're banking on their development, which I think is a pretty safe bet, but you're also going to have to consider the fact that all of their timetables collide in when you have to pay them, and that's a really painful reality for a team like the Magic. As far as the LaMelo Ball Trey Young thing, we're we're not gonna uh, we're not going to give up that much for either of those two. I
Yeah.
think it would have been a detriment. I think that he was the perfect Desmond Bane was the perfect mixture between getting a player talented enough to move the needle versus giving up too much for a player that wouldn't that would negatively impact us. Like there's a sweet spot in there, and
There is.
Desmond Bane is that sweet spot.
People overplay for players all the time that don't remotely make them contenders. But you can tell by FanDuel that we are. And yeah, I just think that he's going to fit in really nicely. And
Yeah.
so, final notes about the Magic. I just want to talk about what they still might need, right? So one of the most important things is that we need a rise from Anthony Black. I think this is the fact that we didn't have to trade him is huge. They probably preferred to trade like one more first round pick than trade AB, who was a sixth overall pick and shows a lot of promise. Again, he's had some weak points, but he's also finished a lot of games for the Magic this season, and I think he has room to grow as a facilitator. Again, I don't know how much true point guard he wants to play, but he is also just a great defensive guy. And we're probably going to have lineups with him and our new big four, in which case Paulo and Franz will be playing the two bigs. And you and I talked about this when we chatted the other day. Like, I imagine that team matching up really well with rosters like Indiana's or others that don't run any real true centers. And we'll talk about the center rotation in a sec, but like we definitely need something big from Anthony Black. And ideally, we also get more 3-point shooting. I would like to try to sign another free agent or try to make some sort of move. I think we could use maybe a potential veteran point guard or other scorers off the bench. Our point guard rotation right now is really AB and Corey Joe. Those are like the only guys that are labeled point guards. That is, if Corey Joe is brought back. But it's Jalen Suggs and Desmond Bane time. And we're going to get Mo Wagner as the sixth man, playing a ton of minutes, hopefully, if he recovers successfully. And by the way, the Magic are like still under the second apron, which is effectively a hard cap in the modern NBA. But they're hopefully can make moves to try to fill in the rest. So, do you want me to go through some ideas of who maybe we could try to target?
Absolutely. But while you do that, I'm gonna be just building like a because like the nine man rotation, or at least the way I see it right now, is Paulo, Franz, Bane, Suggs, Dell, starting five. Six man is gonna have to be Mo.
Yep.
Free agent, either swap Anthony Black, depending on the quality of the free agent, or a free agent at seven.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to have Goga at nine because you need a backup center. So still almost no Jet Howard minutes because I'm assuming that we're going to go out and sign a free agent. So we might as well trade him.
I want to trade Jay Howard. The one guy you're missing who should hopefully get some minutes is De Silva.
I agree. I really hope that De Silva doesn't get cut out of the rotation. So I guess we could run a 10-man rotation in the regular season,
I
and
think
that would
that's more
make
likely.
TDS the 10th man. Um,
Yeah,
but that's a really great 7 to 8 man rotation come playoff time.
really great.
Like that's a playoff winning rotation. I'm so excited.
It is. Before I give my free agent suggestions, Alex has a good question. What is the Dagger gonna do now that all of our sports are in the off season? The truth is, there's a lot to talk about during the off season, as we clearly know. We're talking about trades right now, and there will be more to come. The NBA draft is in a couple days. We can't fit our analysis in this episode, unfortunately, but we will be doing a post draft analysis, and Dylan will hopefully be writing some things and looking into that, and so that should be fun. And we're just gonna do some speculation. We're gonna do predictions. We're gonna bring in other guests, talk, have more fun, general sports conversations. There's a lot of sports combos you can have that don't have to be specific.
As
Um,
far as college sports, at some point during the summer, we're going to have to cover the House settlement, which is probably the biggest bombshell piece of news in college athletics since NIL. And if
right.
you want to consider it a bigger piece of news than NIL in the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's something we definitely need to talk about very seriously. How it's gonna affect the future of all of these conferences and their football and basketball teams. Um, and like you're talking about the you think what's his face? What's our coach's name? Golden is going to
Todd
move
Golden.
to the Big East or something.
Yeah, it's my hot take.
It's a good theory. And NFL too. Rajan has a lot of ideas for like power rankings and predictions. So there's fun stuff to do. By the way, Rajan is oh, wrong one. Rajan is out with a headache, unfortunately, and Alex, he's going to preview tomorrow or today at UF, so he's got to be up at 5 a.m., which is in 3 hours. So I don't think he could have afforded to stay up for very long.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
All right, so back to the Magic. All right, so here is what we should do for point guard. Assuming that we want to sign some sort of veteran point guard potentially, or I don't know, maybe potentially young point guard. Again, the problem is that this point guard I don't think would start. They could be some sort of pure scorer. Again, if we had a guy like TJ McConnell, that would be unbelievable, but we're not actually getting TJ McConnell, and there's very, very few people like him in the NBA. But yeah, the Magic were dead last in assists per game last year. So how do we fix that? Here's some ideas. Chris Paul. He's 40. He's 40 years old, but we could sign him for a 1-year, 3.6 M contract. And there are plenty of people who want that. I mean, it would fit with the MLE and it's under the apron. But I don't really know. He would be there for development. He's not there to stick around and win a title, but I don't know what impact he would have on like a Jalen Suggs or whatever. Um, it's kind of an interesting thought. I don't really think it will happen, but currently, CP3 is not on a roster. He just ended his contract with the Spurs. So,
Wow.
do you think that'd be a W?
Oh, I totally think it would, but I also think that the problem is as soon as he gets here, his calf would like melt off of his bone like a moist piece of barbecue. Like he's
Getting
bound to
roasted.
get injured playing for our team. Unless
Yeah,
we just rest him for the playoffs and kind of use him situationally. But I would love it. I think that he would be great for Suggs and Anthony Black. I think that he would really help them as kind of like a player coach sort of model, just with the knowledge that he's been able to build across a Hall of Fame career that's now spanned into his 40s.
I do too.
I would love it. I would really have a hard time seeing him staying healthy with the style of basketball that we play. But you know, if we could get him on a good deal, yeah,
Unfortunately, I think the truth is that he's finished his contract with the Spurs, but I saw somewhere that says that his family has still lived in LA for a long time, and I don't think he actually wants to play for another NBA team. He might retire, and unless he can sign with the Clippers or the Lakers, because he's hasn't been with his family for a lot of the recent years of his kids, and uh, I think the Magic would have to offer him like quite a bit more than
yeah,
whatever they have, like the vet minimum. So
yeah.
it's unrealistic. Other ideas: Spencer Dinwiddie, 32 years old. It's not something that particularly excites me, but he's a solid player. Dennis Schroeder. That's an idea that's always excited me due to the connection with the Wagner Bros, of course.
I would
But
love Dennis.
yeah, I think that would fit pretty well too. He is a free agent. He is. So like, if there's a good contract we can offer him, I would be pretty happy to see that. Uh, don't can't say for certain. Um,
He's not getting re-signed by Detroit.
maybe not. But all we know is that he's a UFA right now. So, um, also Tyus Jones is a UFA, and Tyus Jones is a small dude. He's not a really great defender, but he is a great facilitator, and I think that for the bench unit, if that's something they need, if they don't want Anthony Black to necessarily, or well, no, yeah, no, Black's not starting. So in the bench, if you're okay with AB playing the two, and then you have that lineup of whatever De Silva and potentially another free agent or two, like I don't know necessarily how much better Tyus is in his minutes with Paulo and Franz, like how much better he makes them, but he's younger. That's his main advantage. He's 29. Um, Unc Kyle Lowry. I don't even know why I wrote that down. And the only other idea was Davion Mitchell, who I do think would fit well. He's on the Heat, but I don't think he's coming here. He's pretty.
No.
He's one of the only good things in Miami right now, so he's no reason to leave, and they would have all the reason to pay him. Um, so yeah, there's some older guys ideas. Maybe Schroeder or Tyus Jones. That would be cool, right? Um, on the center. So yeah, you mentioned the center depth. Right now we have Wendell and Goga and Mo. In my personal opinion, I'm gonna give you names. I don't think we should sign anyone. I think that the market right now is pretty terrible, and I think that once we get Mo back, we'll be competitive enough. And I
Yeah.
also don't think there's any real upgrade for a starting center that's significantly better than Wendell. I don't think there is anyone.
The
Um,
only thing I would look for is a stretch five, which are pretty rare to find at,
yeah, they are
a
rare.
discounted value. So
Yeah, they are. The two best players who are free UFAs right now are Nas Reed and Brooke Lopez. And obviously, if we got one of those two guys, that would be amazing. But it's just the Bucks and the Timberwolves, respectively, care too much about those players to let them walk, I think.
yeah,
Um, and we don't really have the cap space to convincingly sign Nas unless we want to start paying an unbelievable amount of tax. But I wish Nas Reed would come to our team. Um, I'm just gonna
gosh,
give
that'd
you
be incredible.
I'm gonna give you a bunch of other names that are not exciting. Mason Plumley, uh,
Okay, it's good
Tris,
night, everybody. It's been a great episode of the Dagger.
Tristan Thompson. Uh, might be worse actually. Kevon
That is
Looney.
worse.
Kevon
Actually,
Looney.
I like Looney.
He's all
I
right.
I wouldn't like him for the Magic, but I like Looney.
Um, here's a couple guys I grouped together: Valanciunas and Jakob Pertl. See again, like these guys are okay players in the NBA, but they're just not significantly better than Wendell. And
Jakob is probably an upgrade from Goga, but
yeah, he definitely is. DeAndre Ayton cost $35 million. I don't want to trade for him, but I just said that because the Blazers have him and Rob or Time Lord and the kid from
oh yeah.
UConn, Klingon. So
Oh, Klingon, yeah.
they have quite a few centers. If we got Klingon, by the way, that'd be great, but he's too valuable. Um,
Yeah.
Also too valuable is Eves Messi, who I wrote because I would love to try to get him, but again, one of the only good things in New Orleans. And then Claxton. I think the price is too high, and I don't
Yeah,
think we
it'd be
would
way too steep for Claxton's value right now is the highest it's ever been.
exactly. So that's why I would stick to what we have and potentially draft a center at the 25th spot. Um,
Yeah.
in the
Like there are
big
so
man.
many of those Derek Lively, Klingon type bodies now, Malawatch type bodies now. I feel like we can just spend our
Kellel Ware,
draft
that's
pick
what
on a
the
guy
Heat
like
drafted.
that and yeah, and see if they pan out and if they don't, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, and then 3-point depth. This is the most exciting part. These are the guys that I think are actually reasonable targets for the Magic. Most of these are UFAs. Some are actually on a team. Some are unreasonably expensive. So here we go. Here, I'm gonna give you the people that I think are too expensive but would fit like a glove. Ty Jerome, Malik Beasley. He's an unrestricted free agent right now, actually. And that's mostly it at that tier. The next tier, Nikhil Alexander Walker. He is the single my single favorite prospect by far.
Yeah.
I want him incredibly bad. I was looking through his stats, like he is a unbelievably good catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and we can sign him. I think his value is probably around 13 or 14 million dollars a year. I think we can give him a contract for a few years, and I think that's 100% worth it. And he's a good enough defender to fit perfectly with what the Magic have going. Otherwise, he doesn't negate anything.
Did you
Um,
know that he's cousins with Shea Gilgis Alexander? Maybe we could get like a $2 million discount on his contract for having to hear that 2,000 times during his contract.
yeah, I hope so. I never want to see the Thunder and Magic play.
No.
Um, so yeah, NAW, he's a cool guy. Some other guys. Quentin Grimes. I don't know how
Oh,
Ash.
I would love it, but we'll never get him.
I don't think we will either. Again, one of the only things Philly has left. Uh, Grayson Allen. Oh, I do not like
Too
that guy,
expensive.
but he is too expensive. Sam Merrill also on the Cavs. He's decent. Eric Gordon, a bit older, but still a good 3-point shooter. The Bucks have two players that would fit well: Gary Trent Jr. and AJ Green.
Oh, Gary Trent Jr. would be a dream.
I really wanted Gary Trent Jr. He was in one of the mock well, you can do mock trades, which includes just signing people, and there's you always succeed because it's really easy to do. But yeah, I would love to try to sign Gary. Um, Also, the Bucks have Torian Prince. I think he would fit pretty well. He's a NBA Cup legend,
Yeah.
But I don't know. What if he comes with Darvin Ham? That's the problem. Would you take that?
No, I would not. Torian Prince, also Baylor legend, Big 12.
That's true.
Guy.
That the meme with the rebound.
Yeah, you take your two hands and then you grab the ball, and they did that better than us today. A great guy.
um, and then some other guys that I think are Harrison Barnes I listed. I don't want him. The other two guys that I listed that are unfeasible are Sam Hauser, who will be traded from the Celtics, but I just don't think that the Celtics would do it for Jet Howard. They're not stupid,
No,
And also Luke Kennard, who I think Luke Kennard would fit unbelievably well, but I think he's too valuable. I saw some talks about him trying to go to Denver, and I was like, oh, that's deadly right there. But anyway, my best conclusions are Alexander Walker, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green, maybe. I would pass on centers, and for point guard, I would look at maybe a Tyus Jones or a Dennis Schroeder. So I would say of those five guys, if we get two, more realistically one.
Well, I think that if you're trying to maintain that 10-man roster or that 10-man rotation, you'd either have to kick Goga out of that, which I'm okay with personally, to do both. So say we remove Goga, right? I'm putting Gary Trent Jr. and Nikhil Alexander Walker in around equivalent tiers.
Yep.
They would likely become our seventh man. So Gary Trent Jr. slash NAW. So that brings the rotation to Suggs at the point, substitute Anthony Black at the point. Where does Anthony Black fit in with a backup point guard?
That's the problem, right? I think they have to rely on him to develop into that, but the issue is they don't have someone for him to necessarily learn from. That's the question.
And the problem is that we have to play Suggs. Suggs is too valuable to this team. He's gonna be in a couple years from now probably one of the best, if not the best, 3-and-D star in your role kind of guys in the league.
Yeah, he's one of the best perimeter defenders out there.
He's gonna be everything to this team in a couple years. We can't get rid of him.
All those comments, by the way, I hate to say it, but you know who they remind me of? Marcus Smart.
Yeah, I agree.
Who ended up being the primary sacrificial lamb and getting over the hump for the Celtics. And so I hope Suggs can stay for his career, but we needed to get rid of him to bring in Drew Holiday, who again is not necessarily our full-time point guard, but he is just a better version of Marcus. And all love to Marcus though, but I hope Suggs. Yeah, I hope Suggs and AB can both develop as actual point guards, but it's not exactly what they signed up for.
It's crazy how much of the Magic's future relies on Anthony Black learning how to shoot 3-pointers.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. So yeah, also on draft night, the Magic have the 25th slot. If they want to draft a center, the two best center prospects I've seen, Danny Wolf from Michigan. Do you think he would fit well, or do you think that's a bad idea?
I don't know. His game reminds me a lot of Paulo's, actually.
Okay.
He's not the greatest stretch big ever. He has the ability to stretch the floor a little bit. He's more of a facilitating center, so I guess that would help a lot. He's not a terrific rim protector. I guess he doesn't need to be. but
Not as much. We get some big
I
dudes.
I'd like Danny Wolf.
He's just the best center in that range ish, and
Yeah,
also he went to Michigan, if that means anything. Um,
go blue.
and also the kid Behringer, I think from France. I don't remember exactly, but he's another top center there. And
Yeah,
if you choose to pick a wing 3 and D guy, maybe Clayton is there. Probably not. Probably somebody else. But like there are a lot of options if they would choose to go that route. So
yeah.
that I don't think that player will see much of the floor this year. In all honesty, but
No.
I guess it depends. Um, yeah, I guess that those are all my thoughts on the Magic. I mean, I'm very excited for the future. Uh, also, oh yeah, I did write this, dude. We are gonna get punished big time if Paulo makes All NBA due to
Yes.
the supermax language in his contract. He could go from making 265 or 247, let's say 250 in 5 years to 320 in 5 years. It's unfortunate, but it happened to the Cavs with Evan Mobley when he won DPOY. Like as soon as
Hmm.
you actually accomplish something, your team immediately is brutally punished with regarding the second apron and the moves they can make because of how much money you deserve. And so I really love Paulo, and as I want him to make the All NBA team, but at the same time, there's a blessing and a curse to the that coin. So
We need him to get the Jaren Jackson Jr. treatment.
yeah, exactly. And I actually wanted to mention the JJJ on the Grizzlies side because JJJ went from being able to potentially get a 5 year, $345 million contract extension if he made All NBA. That's 69 a year. To now his max is 4 years, 147.
That's
That
so brutal for him.
that's 37 a year for 4 years versus 69 for 5 years. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Um,
Poor guy. I mean, not for Memphis, but poor guy.
yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much all we have on the Magic. But on the Grizzlies, I just have a couple notes. Like, I think it's I don't really know what's going on with their team. I think they might try to retool around Ja and JJJ. That's what I would do. I wouldn't look to trade Morant. They're relevant. Morant matters a lot in the city. They're whatever they've been doing is kind of sketchy since they fired Taylor Jenkins out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was
Um,
weird.
right, and now that Zach Edey is speeding on the highway with Shadur Sanders for no reason, nobody knows what's gonna happen to Memphis, and they were 2 games away from the 3 seed at the end of the day this year. They ended up being the 8 seed, but like the West was so crazy tight that like any one game could have gone a different way, and they could have been in the same seed as the Lakers, But
True.
I think all my only real valuable comment is that blowing it up clearly is not a proven like course of action. It's worked for some teams and it's failed miserably for others. You can ask the Jazz or the Wizards who have been waiting for a long time and might be on the come up, or the Pistons who picked for so long at pick 5 and are potentially finally getting back into the combos. Like I think the Grizzlies are perfectly relevant and competitive enough now. They don't have a reason to break it all up. I think that the Bane offer in terms of the first was pretty good for them, and it was a win-win trade. It's okay for there to be a win-win trade. Um,
Yeah, add the Kings into that now too. R.I.P. Sacramento Kings.
I'd love to talk more about the downfall of the Kings one day. We're looking for a point guard. You got to be kidding me, my guy. You never know how good you got it till it's gone, right?
True.
um,
One last question. What are the Magic's expectations for next year? What
right.
what what are we disappointed with if they don't reach?
So I think the Magic need to be a top 4 team in the at the end of the season. They need to have home court advantage. That's like a you definitely need it unless somebody gets injured. Then it's okay. But that is an absolute must. And then I frankly would definitely be disappointed if we lost in the first round. I would 100% be.
Yeah, we're
There's a
past that.
there's a world right where Tatum comes back and the Celtics are like a 5 or 6 seed and like they are competitive against whoever they're up against. But I think the Magic need to win the first series. Um, I think their floor is second round exit, and honestly, I could kind of talk myself into being okay with that. I just want to be grateful for whatever we got.
Yeah,
Um, I think our ceiling is not championship. I think we need more time with this roster, and I don't
I
think
think it's
Desmond.
the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, Desmond Bane clearly is not a win now move. Uh, do you think our um do you think we could make it to the finals, or do you think our ceiling realistically is just the ECF?
I think realistically, it's just the ECF.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I think next year is probably the Cavs or Knicks time. Both haven't made it, and they're ready. And so I would say, yeah, I would be disappointed if they lost in the first round. But anything other than that, I'd be happy. And I hope they make it to the conference finals. I hope we get some playoff moments with Bane and the crew. And I hope in general that Bane continues to be a good shooter and everything works as planned. But the Magic have more work to do, like a lot more work, and Weltman does too. So I'll be watching the draft on Wednesday, especially to see what they are up to.
Exciting times.
Exciting times. Yeah. Any other thoughts on those news? Or are you all good, bro?
Nothing else.
Well, I am too. It has been a really, really long night. We've been recording this pod for 3 hours, so I wonder if anybody will come back and listen. But to the people who joined us live on YouTube, thank you. Um, this will be uploaded to Spotify in the next day or two. And yeah, you can listen on YouTube and Spotify, and you can follow on Instagram and X. And we will be back, me, Rajan, and Dylan, and we have news to share on that front next week. Hopefully, the Dagger is in for some exciting times, and so we have some exciting stuff planned, and we're excited to share all of it. But again, thank you for listening. Congratulations to the OKC Thunder. And yeah, thank you for staying up so late with me, Dylan, on this Monday morning now, effectively.
It's been a
Gosh.
pleasure. Work tomorrow might not be the greatest day ever, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I got work tomorrow too. I'm not looking forward to it, but it's been fun. I would say it's worth it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night or good morning or whatever. I gotta stop saying have a good night. Nobody people can listen to this whenever they want.
Yeah, it's semantics.
All right. Bye bye.